Okay, let's do it.
Hello, good evening. Slightly later than
Hello.
planned, we are here for our Winter Olympic preview.
Yes, we are.
So yeah, we've brought Chris and I. We've brought in reinforcements this time. We've brought in. I've put you on the wrong ones. I've just realised, but we've brought in our friends Kyle and Dan to help get us through all the events for the Winter Olympics. I hear
Good
my voice
evening.
back. Is someone playing it?
Good evening.
No, we're all good.
Yeah, swap them around. There we go. We can see who's who now. Dr. Dan has the amazing East German athletics books in the background.
Not just East German, there's another drug sheet here as well, which people may recognize. Dead one at that.
Yeah, but just like at the curling this evening, we've had some technical difficulties. I'm hoping they're all fixed, but please uh, let us know if there's any problems. I've realised I don't have the chat up in all my panic.
Oh, I've got it. It's fine. No one said anything yet. We do have a live chat on YouTube. Should you wish to ask any questions, which we will not be able to answer without googling them.
But yeah, we've decided that we're going to go through each event at the Winter Olympics, just as, or at least each sport, just as we did 4 years ago, which is frightening to think that we've been doing this for over 4 years. Um, but yeah, so we've got 16 sports to go through, and I think we said that we're going to go through roughly alphabetically. So alpine skiing, Chris, what do we have to look forward to?
Well, this is for me. This is the athletics of the Winter Olympics. I think it's the best sport, and people will probably disagree with me, but I don't know. It seems like this is what I think of the Winter Olympics as, and it is always very exciting. Um, Obviously, the men's downhill. I'll start there because that is the first kind of event on Saturday morning. Kind of they call it the blue ribbon event of the Winter Olympics, but I guess in terms of the men's skiing at the moment, Marco Odermatt of Switzerland is the man to beat, and he probably is the warm favourite for this one. But it should be close between him and the world champion, Franco von Allmen, who's his compatriot from Switzerland. I think the Cortina course is going to not Cortina course, Bormio course, because women are in Cortina, men are in Bormio. Just to get that clear, alpine skiing have decided to go separately. The Bormio course is maybe more suited to von Allmen, so he might be the one of the there's those two basically who should be the favourites, but the Italian fans will be hoping that 36-year-old Dominic Paris is finally going to get an Olympic medal because he's never won one before, and it's probably his last chance and probably his best chance because he's having a good season. So he is third in the World Cup standings at the moment. So they're the ones to look out for in the men's downhill. A completely different podium, obviously, to last time because Beat Foyts is retired, Johan Clary is retired, Matthias Meyer's retired. So it'll be a complete fresh new podium. There'll be no Alexander Armot Kilder. The Norwegian's out injured. He's been out for a while now. I was hoping to come back for this one, but he's going to skip this Olympics. That's one of the big names who is missing. Other legendary names like Christoph Innerhofer, the legendary Italian. He's 41 years old and they've managed to squeeze him in the team. So he'll be there representing Italy for another Olympics, which is really nice to see. So maybe he can have his Johan Clary moment, which was one of the highlights of last year's, the last Olympics when he managed to get a silver at the age of 41. In the Super G, Marco Odermatt will be cited as favourite in that one for the men. The likes of Vincent Kriechmeier, the Austrian, Raphael Haase, another Austrian, and Ryan Cochran-Siegel, the American, will be in that one. That should be quite a good one as well. Marco Odermatt is also the Olympic defending champion in the giant slalom. He's hoping to become only the second person, I think, to do the double if he backs it up. I think it was Tomba back in the day that did the back-to-back GS titles. He'll have some stiff competition for the likes of Marco Schwarz of Austria, like Maillard of Switzerland, and obviously our new favourite Brazilian, Lucas Brathen, who was representing Norway at the last Winter Olympics, has retired since. He retired at the age of 23, come back at the age of 25, representing Brazil, which is his mother's country. So
Yeah, I
he
was going to
does
say, you
obviously
say new favourite Brazilian, maybe it should be favourite new Brazilian.
yes, yeah, he's obviously switched in the last year or so, but his mom's Brazilian. He's spent a lot of time there, so he's very deeply rooted there. But he obviously fell out with the Norwegian Ski Federation, and it was easier for him to switch there. So he'll be in the mix for the GS, but obviously the slalom is the one that he's going to be aiming for the gold in. And I think the men's slalom is probably the most exciting of the men's alpine events because it's just so close. It's just nobody's dominating it at the moment. Atle Lee McGrath, the Norwegian, is leading the world rankings at the moment, only by 1 point from Brathen. But then you've got Clement Noel, the defending Olympic champion from France, who is very much a do or die kind of skier. He's either going to get to gold or he's going to crash out. So you never know what you're going to get from him. But he is probably the best in the world on his day. Also look out for the other Norwegians. Tim Haugen, he's having a good season. Henrik Kristoffersen, obviously been around for a while. He was dominating the sport 10 years ago when he burst onto the scene. So he'll absolutely be in the mix. Along with a few others. Rassat, the French guy, he's a real breakthrough this season. Won a few World Cups, so he'll be one to watch as well as the likes of Linus Strasser and Manny Feller. They're regulars on the circuit. And then I guess from a British point of view, this is where we have our alpine skiers. They're all in this one event, so this is all or nothing. Obviously, Dave Rydin, it's his very last event. He's going to retire after this, so he was meant to retire for the last Olympics, but decided to hang around for a bit. Won another few podiums in the World Cup in those years, and at the age of he's about to turn 39, I think he's still going. This is his farewell in the slalom. He's obviously had a really good world champs last year, finished 6th, which was the best we've ever had at a world championships. But he's kind of dipped. It's annoying because it's obviously his last season, but he's kind of tailed off a little bit this year, which is a bit of a shame because it's his last season. But he's still going to be there. He'll be one of the guys in the mix if he has a good day. I just want him to finish top 8 because he's never done that at the Olympics. His best position is 9th.
It's a shame with this season that he started really well and it's sort of gone a bit.
Yeah, it's just I think early. I mean, it's really weird this year. He's actually in the rankings, not even British #1 at the moment, which is quite interesting. Because we had that 4th place finish from Laurie Taylor right at the start of the season in Finland. So he nearly got a World Cup podium right out the gates this year. But I mean, they're both ranked outside the top 20 at the moment. But we know Dave's a quality rider, and he can definitely get in the top 16, we'd hope, and then maybe the top 10 as well. But yeah, watch out for Laurie Taylor as well. He's having a good year, definitely stepping up on last year. And obviously Billy Major is the other Brit as well. So yeah, that's the men's alpine skiing. We do obviously have the team event as well, which is different to last time. We've always had a mixed team event at the Winter Olympics, but now they've switched it because they've split the nations, split the men and women. And it is going to be the combined has gone. The individual combined event no longer exists, so you don't get the downhill and the slalom combined, which is a shame for some of the more all-rounders. So that the decathlon's going to have been moved, if you want to put it out like in an athletics term, that's gone. But we do have the team event now where we'll have like a downhiller and a slalom specialist combining, and their times are combined to be the best. So it's only 2 in the team. It's kind of hard to gauge because it's quite a new event. Yeah, the World Championships last year, Switzerland got the 1, 2, and 3. They did a podium sweep. So I think I'm trying to work out exactly how many each country is allowed to field. I think it might be 4. So we could still see the same where we get a sweep. So yeah, that's going to be an interesting event to watch rather than doing the individual combined. It is now a teamed event. Just flipping over to the women, sticking with the team event. Last year, the world champions were USA with Breezy Johnson on the downhill and Michaela Schiffer on the slalom. I can see them doing the same thing again. The Italians will have a strong team, as will the Swiss. But yeah, they're looking like a USA should win that team event. Just obviously on the downhill, Breezy Johnson is the world champion for the USA at the moment. But obviously Lindsey Vonn has come back since then. But it's been a real rocky ride. She's started the season so well. She is leading the World Cup standings. She's had some really impressive performances. And she's historically done very well in Cortina. I think that was one of the reasons why she decided to come back. And also because there wasn't really anybody that was dominating the downhill on the women's side. So the Italians have kind of tailed off with injuries in the last couple of years. So, but then Lindsay herself injured her ACL recently or did something to her knee. And yeah, she's still going to compete. She hasn't said she's not going to, but whether she's going to have any chance to get on the podium, we'll find out when she does the training runs in a couple of days. But it's a shame because she is having such a good season. It looked like she was either going to win a medal at least, maybe even the gold. But now we might not see her on the podium.
I suppose she always had mixed fortunes at the Olympics anyway. I was saying just that she always had mixed fortunes at the Olympics, wasn't it? 2010 or was it 2014 where she was injured?
She missed 2014. Yeah, she won the gold in 2010.
Yeah. If she wins, the NBC coverage will be unbearable. It will be like it will be beyond cringeworthy to what it will be the full thing, and they won't broadcast any of the rest of the Olympics. It will just be repeats of her winning, and that will be all the NBC coverage.
I can see Breezy Johnson winning the gold and Lindsey Vonn scraping a bronze, and it being all about Lindsay.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
I think realistically, she'll get nowhere near with that injury. If we're being realistic,
Yeah.
she's not going to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is it is a shame because like, she was having such a good season. It would have been a great fairy tale story for her. But that said, I said she's not. She might not be in contention. Breezy Johnson is the world champion, but the Italians, obviously, Sofia Goggia, she'll be very much in the mix. She's also coming back off injuries, as is Federica Brignone. That she's had injuries this year as well. So two you'd expect to be in the mix might not be as well. So it forces maybe the youngsters, the younger ones like Emma Eicher, the young German. She's having a good year. And also Kira Vidal Winkelmann, the German who got silver, I think, at the when it was the world champs in Cortina last time. So she's obviously very good on this downhill. So keep an eye on her. Corinne Suter is the defending Olympic champion for Switzerland. And you can never write off Esther Ledecka, the Czech athlete. She came fourth at the World Championships on this downhill and the Super G in Cortina. So she's very familiar with this, with those two fourth places. And she did get a bronze at the World Championships last year. So she never really does that much on the World Cup stage, but come the championship, she elevates the level. So love to see her get another medal.
I
In
know
the
we'll get
alpine
onto
skiing.
the snowboarding in a bit, but she also entered into the snowboarding.
Yes, she's hot favourite in the giant slalom in the snowboarding. So I'd love to see her do the double again and get more medals in the both sports. It is so unique. In the Super G, defending champion Lara Gutbarami is out injured. This was going to be her swan song. This was going to be her farewell to skiing. It's a real shame that she's missed the entire season. So we won't see the Swiss skier defend her title. The women's Super G probably is the closest of all the disciplines for the women's side. The likes of Goggia, as I've mentioned, Suter, Emma Eicher, and Ledecka as well. But I feel like Alice Robinson of New Zealand, this might be her chance to finally get an Olympic medal. Be really great to see, a Kiwi get on the podium in an alpine event, not one of the kind of like specialist kind of freestyle skiing ones. So keep your eye out for Alice Robinson. And then in the giant slalom, really interesting story on the women's side. There's Mexico have an entrant, Sarah Schlepper, she's called. She competed for the USA years ago, and she's come back, switching nationality to her husband's nation of Mexico. And also her son is competing in the men's giant slalom. So we're having this mother and son story for Mexico, which is a really interesting thing to follow. I mean, we won't get anywhere near the medals, but it's just interesting to see that they'll be there. Defending champion in the GS is Sarah Hector of Sweden, but it's Camille Rast, the Swiss athlete, who's having a good year this year. She's been doing well in both the slalom and the GS, so I think she might be the warm favourite. But Julia Scheib of Austria is the World Cup leader at the moment, with Hector obviously still in the mix, and Alice Robinson, and obviously the Americans of Michaela Schifrin and Paula Molzan. So they'll be in contention for that one. Whereas it comes to the slalom, it is very much Michaela Schifrin, who is the red hot favourite. She's already won the World Cup before. I think she's the only skier to have actually won the World Cup standings already. There's still loads of World Cups to come after the Olympics, but she's already won. So she's already beaten Camilla Rast into second place. And then Wendy Holden will also be in the mix for Switzerland. And could this be Albania's chance to get an Olympic medal? Lara Colturi, who is the daughter of the Olympic champion in the Super G from, I think it was 2002. Daniela Ceccarelli, she won the Super G for Italy back in the day. And then she is now coach of the Albanian ski team and has told her daughter, you will represent Albania, which will be interesting at the championships in Italy. So she might get some support from the crowd because she is Italian, but she's representing Albania and she's definitely one of the contenders in the slalom. So
I mean,
hopefully
they
we'll
always
get
vote
Brazil
for
and
each other
Albania
at
on the podium.
Eurovision, Albania and Italy. So lots of love there.
There we go.
It is unacceptable that the children of medalists from the 21st century are now competing for medals. I don't think that should be allowed, and I think Kirsty Coventry should look into it as soon as possible.
And the thing is, it's not even like they're teenagers; they're fully grown adults in their 20s.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Leave it at that.
Yeah, that was my longest one. I've done the most notes on that one, so I won't talk as much for the rest. But
I mean,
I'm very excited.
Yes, a tough one to begin with. So thank you for taking us through that. Next, alphabetically, is the biathlon. So Dan, this is your area of expertise.
Thank you. Well, if alpine skiing is the swimming of the Winter Olympics, which means it's fine, but you're just waiting for it to finish. The biathlon is the athletics of the Winter Olympics for me. It's the So it's taking place in Anterselva, which is very much in the northern Alps of Italy. It is probably the most beautiful of the stadia of the locations for Olympics. It's really genuinely beautiful course and stadium that they're having. The key thing about Anterselva, Anhalt's Anterselva, is it's very high altitude, which will really affect a lot of the biathletes. We'll come to some of those in particular soon. The other general thing about the biathlon is and it's true across the entirety of them, there are no Russians this time as well. And the IBU, the International Biathlon Union, have been very, very anti-Russian, have been very much the forefront of keeping the Russians out. So it's going to be interesting, the discussions that are on at the next Olympics, as the IBU have been very clear that they don't want the Russians back in the Biathlon World Cup at all. The men's biathlon, it's all changed since 4 years ago. The dominant force in men's biathlon for the last decade or so was Johannes Tinnes Bø of Norway, along with his brother, Tarja, and they both retired at the last year. And it's a load of, as Alex was just saying, it's just basically a load of 20-year-olds or mid 20-year-olds who come out of Norway, all the new boys who are very much dominating biathlon and will be in contention for the medals across all the events. First person to look out for is home favourite, Tommaso Giacomo of Italy. He's been doing really well. He was leading the World Cup standings until recently. He's a good all-rounder, good shot, great speed on the skis. Eric Perrault of France is currently leading the World Cup standings. He looks like he's about 12 years old if he's a day, but again, he's another very good all-rounder from a very strong French team. And then there is Johan Olaf Botten from Norway, who's very much leading the World Cup this year until, and this is the big event or the big issue that's going to hang over the Norwegian team in particular. One of their teammates, Sivert Guttorm Bakken, died just before Christmas, and horribly, it was Botten who discovered him dead in the team hotel. So he's been out essentially from the World Cup from last year. It's definitely shaken up the Norwegian team. They've come back and they're still doing well, but there's going to be an issue there. There's going to be a lot of emotions for the Norwegian team, but also for Tommaso Giacomo, who's best friends with Bakken, the Italian guy I was just talking about. So there's going to be some real, there's going to be a lot of feels in the men's biathlon. Beyond those three guys, beyond the sort of new young guns, the new generation, keep an eye out for Sebastian Samuelsson from Sweden. He's got extraordinary ski speed. If he's in it at all on the last lap, he's worth putting, he's definitely worth putting your money on. Other Norwegian. I'm not sure who the Norwegian team is, but it's just not worth betting against any of the Norwegians who turn up, particularly in men's biathlon. And finally, he's not really a wild card, but the other person to watch out for in the men's biathlon is Campbell Wright of the United States of America, who stands a very good chance of finally breaking everyone's favorite Winter Olympics trivia fact, which is
that the USA have never won a gold in biathlon.
Well done, Alex. We didn't even practice that. Yeah, so I think it's the only Winter Olympic event, apart from women's ski jumping, in which the United States have never won a gold medal. And Campbell Wright, former Kiwi, former New Zealander, although he's not a sort of plastic Yank, if you will. I think his mom or his dad is American and he's based there a lot. He transferred over to the US last year. He's got access to considerably better equipment and training facilities and an actual team behind him. He's had several podiums on the World Cup. I wouldn't be at all surprised if he is the first first American to get the gold medal in the biathlon. So that's the men's. And if the men's biathlon is the swimming of biathlon, the women's biathlon is the athletics of biathlon.
This metaphor is so lost now.
It's tenuous and it's stretched to breaking point. This year, we've got to be honest, in Milano-Cortina, Anhalt's, the women's biathlon is all about Dorothea Vera. She is the sort of grande dame of the biathlon. She's Italy's hometown hero, literally hometown hero. She grew up in Anterselva or very nearby. This is her home stadium. She knows it incredibly well. This will be her last Olympics. It will also be her last ever biathlon competition. There's 3 or 4 World Cups after this, but she's not doing them. This is where she's going out. She's had bronze medals before. She got the bronze in the sprint 4 years ago. She's had relay medals. She was going to retire 2 years ago, but I think her sponsors, and she's very much the sort of face of winter sports in Italy. She's tremendously glamorous and very funny. I think she was paid a lot of money, sponsorship-wise, to stay on to do this last one. And actually, having had 2 pretty crappy years, she's come back. She took some time out, and she's competing at a really high level again. She won the very first World Cup of the season. She's not the favorite particularly going in, but she's up there, really competitive. And medal, a gold medal, it will be the story, or it will be one of the big stories for the Italians. Beyond Donna Vera in the Italian team, Lisa Vitozzi, who I was listening back to what we talked about 4 years ago, and 4 years ago I was taking the piss out of her because she could not shoot straight. She was missing 5 shots at a time. The whole thing had fallen apart. Since then, she's won the World Cup overall standings. She's got her game back together. She was out last year with a back injury, but she's back. She's also another person who the Italians would be delighted if she can medal, and there's very good chances there. Beyond the Italian women, we have probably the favorite for a medal, and the person I'm pretty sure you can guarantee across the women's biathlon will get a medal is Lou Jean Monod of France. She's finished second in the overall World Cup, I think, for the last 2 years. Very, very close last year to winning. She's leading the World Cup by a long, long way. She hasn't quite, like Michaela Schifrin, sort of put it away yet, but it's near as damn it. She's going to win it overall this year. If she doesn't win a gold in one of the events, I'll be very surprised. The Öberg sisters of Sweden, always worth a bet. And interestingly, whereas the Norwegian men's team is extremely strong, and we'll see this in the cross country in a bit, the women's team for Norway are not nearly as strong as the men. But they do have one great skier, one great athlete at the moment, Maren Kjergaard, who's got an extraordinary sprint finish and is worth looking out for. My big outlier, and the person I would love to see a medal for, is Slovenia's Anna Maria Lampets, former cross-country skier, a sprint specialist. She's so much faster than the rest of the other biathletes. The problem is she's not great at shooting, which you have to put the two together for the biathlon to work. If she can get her shooting together, she will absolutely destroy everyone, and it would be quite an entertainment to see her do this, sort of put a proper race together for the first time. But I wouldn't put any real money on it. The 2 big sort of events to watch out for. The first event, I think it's this Sunday, the mixed relay. Will be really exciting. Italians stand a good chance of getting a medal or even winning that. And then the final events, the mass starts, where the sort of 30 best men and 30 best women just go off together. That will be a real treat to watch. So that's the biathlon.
Excellent. Thank you for taking us through that. So, Kyle, next alphabetically is bobsleigh. What have you got to tell us on that?
Yeah, so may as well get a German flag up now and go for it. No, yeah, Germany. We'll start with the men's side as we have done. So yeah, Germany once again, really dominant this season in the World Cup. Francesco Friedrich, who won both the 2-man and 4-man in Pyeongchang in 2018 and in Beijing 2022, is still going strong. He's 35 now. Feels like he's been around for a long, long time. However, he hasn't had it all his own way in this World Cup season, and he has been beaten multiple times by his teammate and big rival, Johannes Lochner. So going into it, on form from past Olympics, you think Francesco will have this, but my money's actually on Johannes Lochner actually getting it. And Hansi's had a great World Cup season. He hasn't been able to race at his home track, which is Königssee in the south of Germany, since they had the awful flooding in Germany back in 2022, I think it was. We're finally getting that track back on the World Cup circuit next year. As opposed to Francesco Friedrich, who's from the near the Czech border in Germany. He's an Altenburg guy. So although their teammates are from 2 very different parts of Germany and have their own sort of fans that follow them around, I cannot see anyone else getting between the gold and silver in both the 2-man and the 4-man from them. They have been that dominant this season. if we're going to throw other names into the mix, we're going to have to take the German flag out again, because the German third ranked sliding in the bobsleigh is Adam Amur. He's had a great World Cup season too. He's actually managed to be very consistent, and he's currently third in the World Cup standings, both in 2 and 4 man. Looking at some other competitors, we're going to mention with a slightly British hat there, Brad Hall has incredible pilot he is. He's had a really solid season. It's not been the best. He lies 6th in the 2-man rankings of the World Cup and 4th in the 4-man. Hasn't really had the team come together. They've had a few injuries within the squad, and it's kind of made it hard to get a good, consistent season together. Thankfully, Big T, Taylor Lawrence, is back and healthy after some injury worries earlier in the season that sort of sidelined him from the team. So we've got him, we've got Leon Greenwood and Greg Cackett in his final Olympics, former British sprint star, of course, from the leagues in the UK. With that, we've got the Korean team. Kim Ji-sun has had a fantastic World Cup season. He is currently 5th in the World Cup in the I think in the 2-man and the 4-man. He's not finished outside the top 10 all year in the 2-man, so really consistent. When other people have faltered, I mentioned Brad Hall. They've had a podium, but they've also been down in, I think, 12th, 13th place. So the consistency really is paying off for them. Gonna throw the American hat into the mix as well. Frank Del Duca, he's been around for a while, primarily known as a 4-man athlete, and that's where his success has been. But the script has been flipped completely this year. The 4-man, he's been nowhere. He's not in the World Cup top 10. 2-man, he's currently in 4th place in the World Cup. He's somehow got it together. I don't know whether it's a change in his focus into the 2-man, whether it's injuries in the American squad, so they don't have to have as many break people. But he's really, killing it on the 2-man, and that would be a good shout for an outside bet for a medal if someone could get up in there. On the 4-man specifically, then, speaking of those 3 German sleds, only 3 teams have managed to get another medal out of the entire World Cup season of 7 races. Kim Ji-sun of Korea, as mentioned, got a bronze. Mickey Vogt from Switzerland also has a bronze medal. And Patrick Baumgartner of Italy did manage to get 1 bronze medal on the World Cup circuit this year. What a story that would be if they could manage to replicate that in Cortina in the 4-man. Will it happen? I don't know. The German dominance is so strong. They've got such a great team, such great sleds, and I really can't see past them actually sweeping both, if I'm honest. So that would be a good bet on that one. Then, however, though, we get on to the women. Now, this is where it's a lot more exciting, if, of course, you're not a huge German fan. Now, obviously, Germany again, yes, but maybe not quite to the dominance of the men's side. So, monobob, we'll start with, and this is the second Olympic cycle where we have the monobob event. The monobobs have they changed, or have we just the athletes got better at driving them? There's a school of thought on that. But if you cast your mind back to a few years ago when monobob started, they were very slidey. It was basically push it, sit in it, and try and drive it, but they flew all over the track. Now, if you look at it, if you've not seen it for a few years, they look very controlled and a lot more like a 2-person bob. The athletes sit quite far back in them now to try and balance that weight like they would in a 2-person bob. And it's become a really competitive season. What I love about the monobob is that we have so many athletes who were pushers, who were break people in previous 2-bob speciality, who have now been able to have their driving moment essentially and become that athlete and become that pilot athlete. Going into the World Cup standings, Lara Nolte, who did come 4th in the Olympics in 2022 from Germany, she is currently leading the World Cup standings. She's had a very, very good season. I don't think she's been off the podium in the entire World Cup season. Bree Walker from Australia, who came just behind Lara in 5th in 2022, is currently 2nd in the World Cup standings. I think she's got a great chance of getting a medal in the monobob. So Australians, keep your eye out for that one. Overall, Kaylee Humphries as well, very long-term name in the sport. She's had another really good season. She's fourth in the World Cup, but she is coming off winning the very last World Cup we just had in Altenburg. So coming in good form. One kind of wild card who maybe might be overlooked a little bit for an outside bet is from the USA as well, and it's Keisha Love. So Keisha Love currently is only ninth in the Women's Monobob World Cup and only eighth in the two-person World Cup. However, on the Cortina track in the World Cup this year, she came silver. She got silver, came second in both the mono and the two-person. Now, Cortina was the first race of the season, so was everyone at full form? Were there some injuries, etc.? However, she's proven that she can really drive that track, both in mono and two-person bob. So although not a name that you might be familiar with or think dead set for a medal, she's really proven herself this year on the Cortina circuit in particular. Speaking of break people, stepping into the pilot, we'll go to Canada. We've got Melissa Lottholtz and Cynthia Appiah, who have both been break people for Kaylee Humphries when she was in the Canadian squad. They have had a fantastic World Cup season, very consistent for Melissa. She's sixth in the World Cup in monobob. Cynthia Appiah is a little bit more inconsistent. I love her as an athlete. She's great to watch. She has an absolutely fantastic start. Somehow her driving sometimes can be a little bit erratic. She's come second in the World Cup this year, but also come 13th. So you don't really know what you're going to get on the day when it comes to Cynthia, but it would be great to see a great result from her. Again, going on to the two-person bob, Lara Nota, again, has had a fantastic season. She's won 5 of the 7 World Cups, and the other 2, she's come third. So she really has been on top form. Again, I mentioned Keisha Love having a great performance in the Cortina track, so that's definitely something to keep an eye on. The other Germans, Kim Kalicki, Lisa Buchwitz, very consistent. They're 6th and 7th. In fact, sorry, they're not 6th and 7th. That's their worst performance this year, has been 6th for Kim Kalicki and 7th for Lisa Buchwitz in the two-person bob. Just over the border, Katy Bile from Austria, usually a very consistent performer. She's currently 5th in the World Cup in both the mono and the two-person. She really has, I think she said in an interview, she doesn't really like the monobob, but she appears to be very good at it. And she's very consistent evenly across both there. One woman we need to mention, of course, Alana Miles-Taylor, who's now 41. Not that I like mentioning athletes' ages, but 41 is pushing it, considering we've been talking about how young some of the athletes are. So it's nice to see the range represented here. She, of course, has 2 silver medals and a bronze in past Olympics. Can she get a gold medal here? I think would take a lot to get up there, but I would never count her off. Sadly, she was due to be the flag bearer in 2022, but she got COVID and couldn't do it. And I looked up today, oh, have they picked her this year? No, they've not. They've gone for Frank Del Duca on the men's side on that one. So, yeah, poor Alana on that one. Just a word on the British girls. We are here, fastest losers, of course. Athletics background, we've got to mention the British team. Adele Nicol piloting after being a brake person before. She's Ashley Nelson in the back. Also, shout out to Kyle Placide, who's the alternative, who's also within the squad. Adele, of course, 3 times British champion in the shot put, Welsh national. She's hoping to go to the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow this year, representing Wales in the shot put on her return from Cortina. She's had an up and down year. She had a really bad knee injury in end of last year. Her knee kind of went the wrong way when she was sprinting. It went extended back. Really hampered her progress, particularly within the monobob, where obviously you're doing all the pushing yourself. Her and Ashley worked so well together in the two-person bob. They got a bronze medal on the Europa Cup at the last race of the season, which is the tier below the World Cup. It'd be great to have a nice top 12, I think, is achievable for them as a result. They're still developing. Adele is a fantastic driver, though. If you watch her lines on the track, she's incredible. When she builds up that speed a bit more at the start, which I think will come, she's going to be a force to be reckoned with in the coming cycle going forwards. And I'm very excited to see how she progresses. So, yep, keep the faith, keep the funding, British bobsleigh, and yep, looking forward to a good future from the pair of them.
Excellent. Sounds like a lot to look forward to there. Dan, if you've caught your breath, could you tell us about cross-country skiing?
Again, but just before that,
Ooh,
Kyle,
you sound very robotic.
do people genuinely say the word monobob without laughing?
I've never found it funny. I've not realised until someone said it. I was like, oh no, I don't think anything wrong with it. No.
Okay. Yeah. As long as that's understood, because I literally, it's single person bob, 2-person bob, 4-person bob. No, 4-person, 2-person.
One sec, there's just an audio issue that I don't know what's happened, and it sounds awful.
Other sports. Bobsleigh
Okay.
is the Formula One of the winter sports, of course.
Okay, yeah. Fix.
Yeah. And just as interesting. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So,
But what about the swimming of the swimming of the swimming of the Winter Olympics?
Also, yeah. If bobsleigh is the Formula One of the Olympics and alpine skiing is the gymnastics of the Olympics, because biathlon is the athletics of the Winter Olympics, cross-country skiing is the swimming of the Winter Olympics. This is taking place in Val di Fiemme. It's another fantastic facility. They've been using it for decades, I think, as part of the World Cup. They had a really successful practice event as part of the World Cup a month or so ago as part of the Tour de Ski. The other, again, much like with the biathlon, a big factor this year for the cross country will be the absence of the Russian team, who were hugely successful on the men's and the women's side. 4 years ago, they haven't been around for 2 years on the World Cup. It's completely changed the dynamics, particularly on the men's side. We'll start on the men's side because in the absence of the Russians over the past 2.5 years, cross-country skiing has been completely dominated by Norway, to the point at which it's actually becoming a bit problematic, I think, for the FIS. It's very hard for other nations to sort of get a look in. The Norwegians are phenomenally well resourced, but it's also the national sport as well, to all intents and purposes. Cross-country skiing alongside oil extraction and recently joining NATO, or trying to join NATO. I forget which one it was. Anyway,
Norway's been in NATO for years.
Will go away. Thinking about it, the Norwegian team will go away with most of the men's cross-country medals. They'll be led by Johannes Hosbø Kleber. If he does not win the sprint event, I will come back on here and say really nice things about the monobob and alpine skiing, because I am absolutely convinced that he will win it. He is probably the greatest cross-country sprinter we've ever seen. He's tactically amazing. He has a just sudden turn of speed that no one else has. The only tiny wrinkle in this is that this time around it is classic style rather than freestyle, where they ski parallel like that in the tracks that are existing, which means that it's slightly more susceptible to incident and accident. But even that isn't really going to stop him. Other folks from the Norwegian team to look out for over the longer distances, Harald Admundsen and Mattis Stenhagen. Though if they don't, I wouldn't be at all surprised if the Norwegians come away in a sweep, potentially in the skiathlon, which is another one of these made-up words I find difficult to say, where they do half freestyle, half classic, or in the 10K freestyle. The Norwegians will come out well there. Other names on the men's side to watch in the sprints, Pellegrino of Italy. He's one of the very few people over the last 5 years who've ever actually beaten Kleber in a straight sprint race. Home course, he'll have huge support. I don't think he's going to beat Kleber. If he does, it'd be pretty fantastic. And Ivo Niskanen over the 50K. So the 50K, I think, is the final event, the men's 50K for the cross-country skiing. It's the longest event at the Winter Olympics, and I think one of the longest events at the Olympics generally. I think, Alex, were we discussing this last time we went? The longest is like the road race at the Summer Olympics, and I think then this is longer than the marathon. And anyway, it's a long old cross-country ski race.
Yeah, so definitely cycling road race, and probably the cycling time trial would be similar distance.
But it goes on for a long ass time. It's like you can come in and out of a 50K ski race. You can not just make a cup of tea, you can make a 3-course meal and come back and eat it. It will be through some really gorgeous and beautiful scenery. It will be a really lovely way to start. I think it's the Saturday or Sunday afternoon, just soothingly watching people ski throughout gorgeous scenery.
Slow television, they call it, don't they?
What does that?
Slow television, like where you just watch something and
Yes.
have it on in the background.
Absolutely, yeah. It will be very, very, very slow television indeed at a 50K race. It'd be interesting because last time in Beijing, the men didn't do 50K because it's too cold. So they ended up doing 35K, and then they ended up not doing 35K at all because they mismeasured the course for some reason. So hopefully this time around they will actually get to do the 50K because the real hardcore cross-country skiers, they think the 50K that's the balls event. That's like serious cross-country skiing. Some British interest, outside Chancellor Hope, Andy Musgrave. He's had a pretty good season so far. I don't actually think he's had any podiums this season, but he's always there or thereabouts. The skiathlon, I think, is perhaps his looking at all the 10K. The other thing about Andy Musgrave is his sister, Posey, will be one of the commentators for Discovery Plus, and she's a fantastic commentator as well. So that is a piece of not very interesting trivia for you to be going on with. On the women's side, the absence of the Russians again has changed the dynamics. But interestingly, much less in favor of the Norwegians. Women's cross-country skiing is considerably more competitive at a national level. At an international level, I should say, than the men's is. The other big shake-up, or the big shift in women's skiing, is that Therese Johaug of Norway, who's very much the dominant figure, will not be around this time. The person who has very much been leading and is dominating this year is Jessie Diggins of the United States, who is best described as a cheerful person who wears face glitter, but is also absolutely balls of steel, one of the best athletes like I've ever seen. She's an extraordinary. She's fast. She's got great sort of speed endurance, but she also is competitive beyond belief. She will absolutely ruin herself and be dead across the line. I'm pretty sure she'll come away. I think the skiathlon and the 10K will go to Jessie Diggins. The sprints aren't really her thing. She'll give it everything, but it will be Sweden somewhere along the line. Some combination of Maya Dahlqvist or Johanna Sundling, I should say, will win the sprints for Sweden. And probably Sweden will win the women's relay as well, where the men will be the Norwegian team. This will be the first year that the women will do the 50K in the cross country, because harking back to Bisha in Beijing for the men, women were supposed to do 50K, but it was so cold they ended up doing 35K. And they actually measured the course correctly for the women. So last time was the first time ever that the women's longest distance was longer than the men's longest distance in Olympic history. But hopefully this year they will both do the 50K. That is wide open. It's not rarely done, but it's rarely done at the World Cup level. It's done at club racing an awful lot, particularly in Norway and Sweden. Someone perhaps to watch out for there, if she's fit and healthy, would be Frida Karlsson of Sweden. But that's it's unfair. But that one, you pay your money and you take your chances on the women's 50K. I think the ones to watch out for then, the men's sprint will be the highlight for me. Actually, both sprints events are great, and I think I said this last time. They do the whole thing: qualification, quarterfinals, semi-finals, and finals in one afternoon, back to back to back. And they've got. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I think track and field have got a lot to learn from cross-country skiing sprint about how to stage an event very, very quickly. And in rapid succession. And I'm pleased to see that the women's 100 meters will all take place in one day in Los Angeles 2028. And then maybe in 2032, they'll do it all in one afternoon. But I'm holding out on that.
Preferably all within 1 minute, just one after another.
Yeah, just keep going. You can just do a 400 meters and say that was your 4 races, divide it up. But yeah, that's why not?
Thank you very much. Is that everything on cross country?
I mean, I could go on for some time, but that's everything everyone needs to know about the cross country.
I'll stop you there before I just start waxing on about curling because the curling started. It's curling season, and I am just. I think there's something for me about the Winter Olympics that they now sort of start with the curling. That it's for me, it's all guns going. It may be probably the slowest sport in the Winter Olympics, but I think it's possibly the most exciting. I would say it was whatever of the equivalent of the Summer Olympics, but no, it doesn't need one. Curling is the curling of the Winter Olympics. Um, so quite excitingly, at least for an Olympic nerd like me, the curling's taking place in what was the main stadium for the 1956 Winter Olympics. So, sort of cutting off two venues there. I'm quite excited that when I go in a couple of weeks, I'll be able to tick off two Olympics in one trip in terms of my venue bucket list. Um, the mixed doubles is already underway. We saw Britain with a pretty decent win against Norway in their opening round match. Norway being a decent team, they won bronze and silver at the last two Olympics. So that's going to put Britain in good stead. And they're definitely one to watch. Of course, Bruce Mauer and Jen Dodds, they came fourth in Beijing, and they're obviously not wanting to repeat that here in Cortina. But I think that the main ones to watch in Cortina are the defending champions with Stefania Constantini and Amos Mozana. They were the surprise package in Beijing, going undefeated in the mixed doubles. They've not played in every tournament since, but they were in the Mixed Doubles World Championships last year, where again they went undefeated. And adding to that, they're playing on home ice. Stefania is literally from Cortina d'Ampezzo, so she's going to have probably all of her family support that she needs, and they will be very tough to beat. I think they are the ones that all the teams will be fearing as they go into this, which is quite a turnaround from the last Olympics, where they were this unknown quantity that just seemed to cause upset after upset. Also worth looking at Australia, Tarly Gill and Dean Hewitt. They were bottom of the standings at the last Olympics in the mixed doubles, but they did have one significant victory over Canada, which was over their coach, and prevented Canada from reaching the knockout rounds. So they show that they are capable of an upset. They caused like that fun little anecdotal story there. They were bronze medalists last year at the World, so they are genuine medal threats. So too, I would say, as I mentioned, the Norwegians. We've got one of the married couple pairs in them, and you should never write out Sweden. With got a brother and sister pair there of Isabella and Rasmus Vrana. So that's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out, and it's also interesting to see how those who are going to compete in the team events are adjusting to the ice, because we saw tonight that there was a lot of shakiness judging the speed of the ice. I thought it looked exceptionally shiny for Olympic standard curling ice, but what do I know?
Just to point on that, sadly the Australian team aren't there.
Aren't they?
No, sorry. They
What do
were
I
you
know?
were correct about the World Cup, but they're not in the mixed doubles. I'm
Well, I look
afraid.
stupid, don't I?
Sorry.
Are they not there? Because that having an Australian team at the Winter Olympics is like having Australians at Eurovision. It's just weird.
I think they just missed their flight. But no, sadly, yeah, they're not there.
Oh my god, I'm
Yep.
so upset
Sorry.
by that. No, I'm glad you corrected me.
It would be a very outside Meta Hope.
Yeah, continent away, Middle Hope. Going into the men's competition, Team Mauer probably start this as favourites. They are the reigning world champions in the Grand Slam last year. They won 4 of the 5 Grand Slam tournaments, and the 5th one was also won by a Scottish team, skipped by Ross White. So a great year for Scotland, and it was the best that a team had ever done across all the Grand Slams, if I'm not mistaken. They didn't win the European Championships. They were beaten by Sweden in the semi-finals, if I'm not mistaken, and so they had to settle for the bronze medal. So they perhaps don't have all the titles that they'd want to going into this, but I think that most teams will be looking at Scotland as the ones to beat. Defending champions Sweden, it's the same team as last time. They've not been quite the same quality as they have been in 2022. Part of the issue with that is that Skip Niklas Edin has had lots of injuries, particularly to do with his back. He had to sit out some competitions and let his vice skip take over because of the injury. And he still says that it's still not 100%. And that does seem to be translating through to their results. Elsewhere, Canada, it's Team Jacobs. It's a reasonably new lineup with the four curlers together, but they've all got so many Olympic golds between them, some from 2010, some from 2014. The skip himself was part of that 2014 team that played incredibly aggressively and very much played in a way that nobody really knew how to respond to. Then, so they will be a significant threat, albeit in it's even with such an all-star team, it'll be interesting to see how they gel together on the ice. And then Switzerland, Team Schwaller, they're the 2025 world silver medalists. They're also the European silver medalists. They were runners-up in quite a few of the events that on the Grand Slam last year. So they're definitely going to be ones to fight, looking to get themselves into contention with probably, like you'd say, the big three being Britain, Sweden, and Canada. As for the women's, Britain are the reigning champions, but of that squad, there's only actually one member who's carried through from Olympics to Olympics, and that's Jen Dodds, who's also going in the mixed doubles. The skip is Sophie Jackson, but she actually plays lead, so she's not making the big make or break shots. Instead, that responsibility falls to Rebecca Morrison. So it's interesting that there's a slight more, almost like a more collaborative dynamic when it gets to the big shots at the end, because it's much more agreeing rather than the skip saying, I'm doing this is how we're going to do it, and I'm the one throwing the stone. I don't know how likely they are to get a medal. I'd say they're an outside shot. They're not as experienced as we've become used to with Eve Muirhead. We saw her progressing Olympics to Olympics, and now she has to settle for being the chef de mission for Team GB. But the names that who I think really will be fighting for the podium, Team Tirinzoni for Switzerland. They've been in the final at the last 6 World Championships, 4 gold medals, 2 silvers, and they'll be looking to reverse some awful Swiss luck in women's Olympic curling. Switzerland came 4th in 2022, 2014, and 2010. They lost the gold medal finals in 2002 and 2006. They always just seem to fall at the final hurdle, and I think that she's going to really be looking just to try and correct that a bit, because they've not they've had just an unlikely level of poor luck. Also, is Canada in strong contention? They're skipped by Rachel Homan. She's also got a bit of bad luck that she'll be looking to shake off. She represented Canada in 2018, where her team became the first Canadian women's team ever to not win an Olympic medal, which, given that I think over half of the world's curlers live in Canada, was quite a big scandal. She then came back. She was in the mixed doubles in 2022 and again didn't win a medal. So she'll be hoping that it's third time the charm. And then Team Hasselborg, they won medals at the last 2 Olympics for Sweden. They're the current European champions. You can never count out Sweden. And then we've got, I'd say, a bit of an outside threat from the Asian teams. South Korea, Team Gim. This isn't the same team that won silver in 2018. It's a different one, but they seem to have sort of taken on that mantle that they've received really well. And China, who are recent pan-continental champions, so everywhere but Europe in that tournament, and they beat Team Homan in the final. So I think that they could be a bit of an unknown quantity for many of the teams going into this tournament. And now I think I need to talk about figure skating.
you don't have to.
Well,
Yeah, don't feel obliged.
last time
this
we
is
did
probably,
this,
probably my least favorite of the Olympic sports, but we might have a medal chances.
last time we did this, I think we really dropped the ball on figure skating, where we sort of got to figure skating, all looked at each other, went like, no, okay, next sport. So I've made it my job to make sure that that's not going to happen again. And quite excitingly, Britain actually have a very decent medal chance in the figure skating. We haven't won a medal in this since 1994, since Torvill and Dean's return. So, and again, it'll be in the ice dance. It's Lila Fear and Lewis Gibson. Lila Fear being the athlete who's been chosen to carry Britain's flag at the Milan part of the opening ceremony. And they've had a decent few years. They've been becoming regular medalists on the European level. And last year at the World Championships, they finally managed to break through and get a bronze medal on the world level. At the most recent European Championships in Sheffield, there was talk of them going for the gold. I don't think that was really going to happen, but they probably lost out on the silver from a very noticeable mistake in their free skate. So they'll have to skate flawlessly if they're going to get a medal, because the favourites being Madison Chock and Evan Bates of the USA, I think they're pretty much a class apart. I don't think there's going to be any catching them, bar something catastrophic, really. Then the silver medalists, I would say, is quite nailed on, which is Guillaume Cizeron and Laurence Fournier-Bergy, who are representing France. Cizeron is the 2022 Olympic champion, but this is a new partnership. They only started skating together last March, but they're already European champions and had the silver medal at the Grand Prix final, which is, I'd say, quite an approximation of where the world medals are going to go. So then it gets to a bit of a three-way battle for bronze, being Lila Fear and Lewis Gibson. And then there's the hometown threats of Charlene Guinard and Marco Fabri. And then Canada, Piper Gilles and, no, I've written their names wrong, but it's Gilles and Poirier. They seem to have dropped down the rankings a bit. They used to be sort of a constant foil to Fear and Gibson on the world level, but they don't seem to be quite at the same level this year. But I still don't think that you should overlook them in terms of the ice dance. It's the Olympics. Everybody's capable of stepping up their programs. Over in the men's individual, Ilya Malinin is the overwhelming favourite. He's the only skater to have ever landed a quadruple axel in competition. I cannot remember what a quadruple axel is because most figure skating jumps look the same to me. And his main competitors will be from Japan, being Yuma Kagiyama and Shun Sato, and also a potential Kazakh medal on the cards for Mikhail Shydorov. He won the silver medal at the Worlds last year. It's a similar looking story in the women's individual. Elisa Liu of the USA is odds-on favourite, and it's going to be two Japanese skaters who are the most likely to upset that, being Ami Nakai and Kaori Sakamoto. I'd also like to give a shout out to Britain's representative here. It's the first time that Britain have qualified an individual female skater since 2014. Kristen Spores, she happens to train locally to me just up the road, so that's part of the reason I want to mention it. But the fact she's made the Olympics is really quite remarkable. She qualified a space for Britain at the World Championships last year, but the places are awarded to the federations, not necessarily the athletes in figure skating. She then had injured her, I think she had a slipped disc just a few months after that. She underwent surgery for it. And at first, I think she was in a bit of a race to get better for the Olympics. And then she gave up on that and she just said, I'm taking a break from the sport. Only for that to last only a couple months. She got back on the ice in time for the British Championships and did enough to win the national title and earn selection. She's still not at 100% fitness. She can't necessarily do all the components that she previously did. But I really hope that she can do herself proud and hopefully qualify for the free skate. I think that she's planning to retire after this, so I really hope that this is that sort of career high that she's looking for. And then the pairs. This is the only event where American skaters aren't really the favourites, and it's Japan. Rika Miura and Ryuichi Kihara are the reigning world champions and Grand Prix champions. Italy will have strong hopes here, so lots of home support for Sara Conti and Niccolo Macci, who bronze medalists at the Worlds last year. They were the silver medalists at the Grand Prix final. And then it's going to be Germany with Nikita Volodin and Minerva Fabienne Hasse, who are likely to make up that podium with a pair representing Georgia, Anastasia Metelkina and Luca Berulava, looking to capitalize on any mistakes that the others make. You might notice that a lot of those names sound really Russian. That's because they are. Lots of figure skating's always had really loose rules with nationality, so that one skater can move to another. So, particularly for pairs, and I think various nationality laws and with Georgia mean that yes, suddenly Georgia has a lot of figure skaters with Russian surnames. So that's a fun little quality that's emerged in the last 4 years. But it is interesting to see that because we will have that absence of Russia from these games. There are a few neutral athletes, but I don't expect them to be causing too much of a threat. In the team event, given that most of what I've mentioned is USA versus Japan, I think it's going to be them for the title. Probably Italy might be seeking a bronze. The interesting thing is the way that Canada have really dropped off in figure skating. They're not really contenders in too many events. So I don't see them being on the podium where they have been traditionally quite strong in figure skating. And that's all I have for you on that.
Well, we've got some comments in the chat on this. The figure skating, what everyone's excited about, obviously. Lorraine is coming saying that wouldn't say that Alicia is odds-on favourite. Her and Carrie are closely matched, but there are quite a few people who could get on the podium. So I think I trust Lorraine's expertise.
Yes,
I know she's a big figure. I know she's a big figure skating fan. So and also axle jumps are the easiest to pick up as they take off forwards. And Pete said quadruple axle is 4.5 revolutions. So there you go. And Italy v Georgia for the bronze, apparently, in the team event, Lorraine says.
I think, I didn't watch the Grand Prix final, but I think that, the Italians did a bit better in the Grand Prix, but I don't know the exact circumstances if there were some errors there. I'm sure I can be enlightened on that.
And just to touch on what you said about nationality, of course, Olivia Smart is a British figure skater who's now representing Spain. She will actually be their flag bearer at the ceremony as well. So
it was quite funny at the European Championships in Sheffield, where she is from Sheffield, and was very much being, celebrated as a hometown girl while wearing Spanish, carrying the Spanish flag.
She's good at Spanish, to give her credit. She's really learned well, so I'll give her that.
And her partner's German, Alex. It should be added.
Yeah, German, but also nice Spanish. Yeah.
Alex, promise me they still do the like skating gala at the end of the ice skating where they just like accept the campness and like any attempt to like decamp it is just so they're still doing it, because that is the one I would tune in for, definitely.
Oh no, they still do that. Also worth mentioning that they've actually the rule that everybody hated with banning flips, Surya Bonali, that's now been repealed. So you are now allowed to do components where your feet go over your head. We may see a few. I don't know.
24 years too late. I was going to say,
it's 30 years too late. Poor old Surya.
Yes. Freestyle skiing is next. So, Chris, I believe you've taken
a nice hour's break there since my last roughly.
Like, there's only one gap between my next one. I'm running out of breath.
I know. Right, freestyle skiing. Obviously, lots of components to it. You've got the aerials, the moguls, the ski cross, and then obviously the big air slopestyle kind of events. Aerials is not my area of expertise, as you'll probably tell from what I'm about to say, because I think it is basically men. On the men's side, it's just China versus Ukraine, kind of where the medals are going to be going. I think it's going to be pretty interesting. I think the world was looking at the World Cup rankings. Sun Jiao is the champion this year, the Chinese guy, but it's his compatriot Ji Guanpu, who is the defending champion. So we expect those medals to go to China and Ukraine on the men's side. And on the women's side, it's pretty similar. It's looking like it will be China again, heading up the medals, with maybe some Americans and Australians potentially getting on the podium as well. So that is the aerials. Moguls, they decided that one moguls event wasn't enough. We've got 2 this year for these Olympics. I know. Why exactly? To be fair, the dual moguls does sound quite interesting because they're actually racing. It's like a knockout. So it is kind of like I don't know how it works because I thought they scored points when they did the tricks, but hey ho. Maybe someone in the chat can help me out with this, but yeah, moguls is still happening, and obviously on the men's side, I think it was on the last preview pod I did 4 years ago. I think I said like the most nailed on favourite for a gold medal was actually the Canadian Michael Kingsbury in the moguls, and he came second. So obviously I don't know what I'm talking about, but he's back. He's going to be in the mix this time, as is Walter Wahlberg, the defending champion from Sweden, who was upset the Canadian last time. But I think it might be Ikuma Hiroshima of Japan, who was the bronze medalist last time, who is looking like he's going to be one of the favourites this time because he does head up the moguls world standings this year ahead of Australian Matt Graham and America's Nick Page. Julian Vile as well of Canada. Watch out for him. He's also leading the dual mogul standings ahead of Hiroshima of Japan. So it's a bit more spread out, the moguls, than usual. So yeah, look out for those guys in both the individual and the dual. And on the women's side, we have a Brit, obviously. We had Michaela Gherkin-Schofield last time came 9th, which was like, what? An event we don't really do anything about, but she's had a bit more success, I guess, since then. Not as highly, she's not as highly ranked in the rankings, but she did have a World Cup podium in the dual moguls in 2023. So she has been on a podium in the moguls. So fingers crossed she can get herself in and around the top 10. That'd be really good to see. In terms of the favourites in the women's moguls, Jakara Anthony of Australia is the world leader at the moment, and then it's a load of Americans basically. This is very much going to be Australia versus America, it seems, and hopefully, yeah, Gherkin-Schofield can come away with a top 10 in either the individual, like she did last time, or in the dual, which he seems to be a little bit better at. And the Americans are very much dominant in the dual as well. I think the top 4 in the World Cup rankings are the 4 women that are going for the USA. So, yeah, moguls will be interesting. Hopefully, yeah, we'll have some British interest in the latter stages of those competitions. I'll move over to the ski cross now, which is always a bit of fun. We love a bit of drama in the ski cross. Speaking of drama, if you remember last time at the Olympics, we had the drama with Daniela Mayer of Germany and Fanny Schmidt of Switzerland with the bronze. And I think Fanny Schmidt was disqualified after she finished it, but she eventually was reinstated about a year later. And she finally got the bronze medal. So they shared the bronze medal in the end. It was very dramatic. So they are both back, and actually Fanny Smith is probably the favourite to win. So hopefully she can maybe get stand on an Olympic podium this time and get the medal. I think the defending silver medalist Marielle Thompson of Canada is also going to be one of the contenders, as is the defending champion from Sweden, Sandra Naslund. So it's not really changed that much on the world stage. The women's ski cross, Naslund is topping the World Cup rankings ahead of Maya. Fanny Smith is in 4th. So there's a few French athletes who could also be in the chaos, because it is chaotic. They are racing literally elbows out all the way around. But it's bizarre that it has been the same kind of women since then. So yeah, women's ski cross should be pretty fun and maybe as dramatic as last time. The men's, we have I guess an Italian hope here, Simone De Ramidis. He's second in the World Cup rankings behind Canada's Reese Howden, who will probably maybe start as one of the warm favourites, along with a few of the Swiss guys. Alex Fever got silver at the Olympics last time, and he's also ranked quite highly in the World Cup rankings this year. But we just love the ski cross, don't we? It's a bit of a fun one. So it's just great to put on. Even if we're not invested as much this time.
It's one of those Winter Olympic events that feels very much Mario Kart-esque.
Yes, yeah. It's a bit like, there's a few banana skins and whatnot, and anything can happen, as we found out last time. But we do have a British entrant in the men's. Oliver Davis is going on the men's ski cross, so good luck to him. So let's get on to the kind of more of the what I call the fun and slightly better, more interesting freestyle skiing events.
The ones Britain have medal chances in.
Yes, but I just enjoy them anyway because it is a bit more like gymnasticy things, isn't it? So I'll start with the big air and the slopestyle because they are kind of similar. You get a lot of people doing crossover. On the men's side, in the big air, Burke Rood of Canada was the champion 4 years ago. He's still very much one of the main contenders this time. He's kind of up there in the rankings. But it's also the American Troy Podmilazak. He's up there too, and Luca Harrington, another one from New Zealand. So New Zealand, this is where Australia and New Zealand can get their medals as well. There's a lot in the freestyle event, both in skiing and snowboarding. So yeah, definitely keep an eye on Podmilazak and Burke Rood as the head-to-head with Luca Harrington mixed in both big air and slopestyle. And from a British point of view, we have Chris McCormack as our entrant in both big air and slopestyle. On the slopestyle, my favourite name, I think, of the whole Olympics is an American called Mac Forehand. I don't know why he's not a tennis player. I mean, I don't know if he needs to fight. Is there anyone called Backhand?
It's a match made in heaven, if so.
Yeah, exactly. Mac Forehand does top the World Cup rankings, tied with Burke Rood of Norway, so that could be an interesting battle. Yeah, it does make me laugh that is one of the guys. Alex Hall of America is defending champion. He'll be there with compatriot Nick Guepa, who was on the podium last time. So the Americans are always a threat in these events too. So keep an eye out for those guys. And then going over to the half pipe for the men, I'll just pop over there because we could segue nicely to the women eventually. But basically, no defending champion. Nico Porteous of New Zealand, who historically won that gold medal last time, he's stepped away from competitive skiing after an injury, so he's not going to be there to defend his title. Alex Ferreira was on the podium for the USA last time, and the Americans will definitely be a threat this time. And then there's a lot of siblings, which I'll come to in a bit, but the New Zealander Finlay Melville Ives, he is one of the favourites in the men's halfpipe. He just topped the World Cup standings, but his twin brother, Cameron Melville Ives, is going to be in the snowboard halfpipe. So they're kind of like the Nielsen twins, if we're doing an athletics thing, where they're kind of doing the same event in terms of they're doing the halfpipe. They only do the halfpipe, but one does it on skis, one does it on a snowboard. So twins doing similar things, but slightly different. So I quite like that. So keep an eye out for the Melville Ives twins. Yeah, so halfpipe, he does top the rankings as Finlay, ahead of loads of Americans, Hunter Hess and Burke Irving and Nick Guepa, who I mentioned earlier as well. So yeah, the halfpipe, obviously from a British point of view, we have Liam Richards as well as Gus Kenworthy, who has come out of retirement. Obviously, he's been around a while, won a silver medal in Sochi run representing the USA, switched to Great Britain for Beijing, and then retired after that, thinking that was going to be the end. And then he decided he missed skiing, got a bit bored, came back, managed to make the qualification, and is going to be representing Great Britain for his second Olympics, which I think is his fourth overall. So 2 for USA, 2 for Great Britain. Obviously, he's been doing lots of celebrity things in the meantime as well. He pops up on many a reality show in America and whatnot. So I think he's been in American Horror Story, right? Hasn't he been acting as well? You're definitely in
rings
Will
a
and
bell.
Grace.
Acting is a strong word, but yeah, he's been in fictional TV shows. Yeah.
Standing there looking pretty, basically, is what he's been doing. Yeah. So yeah, so obviously it'd be nice to see him have a good run, maybe because I know Beijing didn't quite go to plan. He had a nasty fall. So yeah, that is another contender in both doing all three of the disciplines on the freestyle skiing men's side is Henry Sildaru. You might recognise the name Sildaru. His sister Kelly won a bronze in the halfpipe or slopestyle, sorry, at the last Olympics. So the Sildaru brother and sisters are going to be contenders again, with Henry maybe being more favoured in the men's slopestyle, whereas his sister is just doing the halfpipe. So the halfpipe for the skiers from a women's side, from a British point of view, is probably our best chance of a medal, with Zoe Atkin being the world champion. Obviously, her sister Izzy won a medal in Pyeongchang in 2018. just checking. I'm like two in Asia back to back. It was very confusing. So yeah, so hopefully we can finally get another medal in this. Maybe the gold would be nice to have our first gold medal on snow. Zoe's probably our best chance. She is ranked second in the World Cup standings, but as I mentioned, is the world champion. Indra Brown is topping the world rankings, the Australian. But we've got to mention Eileen Gu, of course, who is doing all three events like she did at the last Olympics, which where she was the poster girl of the whole games in Beijing. Obviously, the American-born, but represents China. She's one of the biggest names in women's sport. Every year when they publish the list of top 10 earners in women's sport, she's in there. She's in there every year. Well, it was basically just 9 tennis players and Eileen Gu. So she is always going to be one of the big stars of the game. Whether people are saying, "Oh, she's been distracted," is she going to be performing as well? I mean, last time she got 2 golds and a silver, but she did win the half pipe. So this time going for all 3 again, it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But going on to the slopestyle and the big air, I guess from a British point of view, we've got Kirsty Muir, who is, she was only youngster when she competed last time. Very much one of the contenders this time. She's ranked second in the Big Air World Cup rankings, and overall across both, she's actually third. So having
She's
a
got
good year.
her medals from the X Games as well, just from a few weeks ago.
Yep, exactly. She's in good form. She's, I think, arguably peaking at the right time. So I think a lot of people have said that she's kind of pacing her season well. She's had obviously injuries since the last Olympics and missed a lot of events. It's quite. I'm hoping she does well because I interviewed her back in 2019. So it's when she was a shy little 15-year-old. But it'd be good to see her. Yeah, hopefully again at least get a medal. I'd love to see her get a medal. It's going to be tough because there's plenty of other people in the mix, especially as I mentioned, Eileen Gu, Tesla Doe, Mathilde Gramont, and then a few of the Canadians as well. Also, the Italians, keep an eye out for Flora Tabanelli. She's a young, exciting young Italian that the Italians are very excited about. And her brother, going back to the siblings, Marco, is also going to be one of the rising young teenage stars on the men's side. So, again, along with the Soldaro siblings, the Tabanelli siblings are ones to look out for the Italians. And then, women's slopestyle, obviously, Eileen Gu Remote is the defending champion. That's the one that Eileen Gu didn't win, so she'll be hoping to get the slopestyle gold at least. But hopefully Kirsty Muir can be in the mix for medals in both of those. And maybe we could get a medal in each of the women's freestyle skiing events for Great Britain, which would be great.
It would be great. It's exciting to when you sort of look in these sports and you see, we're not pinning our hopes on one person. We've got multiple medal chances.
Yes, but it's also those things where all of them are like they could easily finish 4th or 6th. It's like we've got a lot of potential medal chances out there, but a lot of them could just miss.
Well, moving on from that to a sport where we have precisely 0 medal chances in, because we don't have teams in either, ice hockey. As tradition, 2 tournaments, women's and men's. I'll start with the women's because there's been quite a fundamental shift in the world of women's hockey since the last Winter Olympics. The Professional Women's Hockey League has been established in the US and Canada, which is part backed by Billie Jean King. And it's really the first sort of league in hockey that's paying regular wages to hockey players. Before they were mostly women's hockey players. They were mostly surviving on bonuses before that and prize money. And so the game has developed in a way that it's never quite been before. And I think because of that, we're going to see the gulf between the US and Canada and the rest of the world be even greater at these Olympics. The one caveat to that is that the players in the PWHL won't have had as much time working together as a national team as they would have done at previous Olympics. Before there would have been lots of training camps, whereas now I think because of the season break, it's a lot shorter. They won't necessarily be as strong as a unit. But I really don't think that you can look beyond the US and Canada in this event. So, I mean, those 2 countries, since women's hockey was introduced in 1998, have won the gold medal every time. I don't see that changing, bar some major upset. It's probably going to be Czechia, Finland, and maybe Switzerland looking to compete for that bronze medal. But it really is just that bronze medal that I think is up for grabs. I think it's going to be US and Canada meeting each other in the final once again. Canada are the defending champions, but US are the reigning world champions. And it could be an interesting face-off. I think there's a lot of pride at stake there as well. And then speaking of like the professionalism in hockey, for the first time since 2014, we're going to see NHL players in the Winter Olympics. They didn't in 2018 due to a dispute over the season break, and in 2022 they were due to, but because of COVID, the NHL then decided against allowing another season break. So this means that the US and Canada are probably going to be far more of a threat than they have been at the last two Olympics. The US in particular, I would say that the US are probably narrow favourites. They are reigning world champions for the first time since 1960, and they could be on to win their first Olympic gold since the Miracle on Ice in 1980. So they're not actually as strong in Olympic hockey as you might expect. However, one good barometer of where they've been in the last few years isn't necessarily the World Championships. I'd look at the NHL Four Nations playoff, which took place last spring, I think, and it generated a lot of headlines because the US Canada match, which was very much at the time of the tariffs being discussed, and that broke out into about 3 fights within the first 9 seconds. It was such was the heated level of that. I'm not going to say rivalry.
Well, the chat's already asking us, is there going to be a heated rivalry? Well, how many heated rivalry mentions will we get shoehorned into commentary?
I was just doing all I could not to end that sentence that way. And
so many people are going to be tuning in and be really disappointed with how remarkably ungay like ice hockey actually is. Yeah.
So yeah, Canada are in a sort of mixed form. Even though we have a lot of NHL players, they didn't even make the semi-finals at last year's World Championships, which did include NHL players. So they're perhaps a bit behind, but they are the champions from that NHL playoff. Also, elephant in the room, there is no Russian team. The Russian Olympic Committee won the gold in 2018, Olympic athletes from Russia won the gold in 2018, and the Russian Olympic Committee won silver in Beijing. So I think that does open the tournament up a bit more for other countries, even though the NHL players are going to skew things more towards the North American sides. It's actually the first time that there's no Russian or Soviet team since 1952 in hockey. That leaves the likes of perhaps Finland, Czechia, to again fight for those minor medals. So again, it's looking to be the same countries on both the men's and women's sides. So, following on from ice hockey, luge. Kyle, I believe you've been swatting up on this.
I have indeed. As you all know, I'm a big bobsleigh and skeleton fan. Luge, not so much. However, I've done a lot of research on this. Interestingly enough, the lugers have not been on the Cortina track as opposed to the bobsleigh and skeleton athletes. So it's very much unknown for them, really. However, familiar name still exists around the ether of luge. Felix Locke, of course, double champion in Vancouver and Sochi. He finished 5th in 2018 and 4th in 2022. He is currently leading the World Cup standings. He has had a really great year. Really, I'm sensing, I don't know, it must be his final Olympics. Go out on a high, you would think. He is on the lead though by 1 point from Jonas Müller of Austria, and I feel like the German government should be paying me to hype up their athletes. But again, Germany is the nation to go to for luge, particularly on the men's side. Of the current world top 10, actually, we have 4 German athletes, 4 Austrian, and 2 Latvian. So if you're not Austrian, German, or Latvian, basically don't bother. Speaking of that, of course, 2018 champion was David Glutcher from Austria. He actually is the 4th ranked of those 4 Austrians. So they have 3 slots. He's not going. So despite being in, I think, 7th place in the World Cup, he's not going to be at the games. So that's what happens when you've got such a competitive home team. The 2022 champ, Jonas Lundvughaus, has also retired, so opens up a new slot for that. Going back to David Glarcher, I just mentioned him. He's the 4th ranked Austrian, but his brother Nico is a 2nd ranked Austrian, so the Glarcher name will live on for the games in Cortina. Going on to the men's doubles, again, Germany really dominate. Tobias Wendel and Tobias Arlt. I'm not sure my German on that one. They are over 100 points clear of 2nd place in the World Cup, who are from Austria, of course. And looking at the standings of the World Cup, again, in the men's doubles, you've got 3 Germans, 3 Austrians, and 2 Latvians in the top 8. So really, again, we're going to see those nations dominate. It will be interesting to see how they adapt to the new track, not having the competitive aspect, not having the training time that they have had in the other sliding sports. Will be interesting to see how that affects them going on to it. But of course, it's the same for everyone. So you can't really say one way or the other. I don't know if any of the Italians, although not being a huge luge nation, have had that particular input to the track, or at least time to practice on it. I know they kind of had a little bit on skeleton bobsleigh, but the track was finished so late that no one really had that chance either in those sports as well. On the women's side, the 2022 champ, Natalie Gluschenberger, has also retired. So again, we're going to get a new champion on the women's side, but it's likely to come from Germany or Austria. Austrian Lisa Schulte is the current World Cup leader at the moment. Anna Berret, who was 2nd in Beijing, is currently the 3rd ranked German in the World Cup this year, so she will be going as they have 3 sets qualified. The other Germans will be Julia Tabitz and Meryl Fabrel, so they again will be strong hopes. The USA on the women's side have an outside possibility of a medal. Summer Britcher, who's been very competitive all year, 5th in the World Cup, but has won twice in Sigulda, notoriously a very tough track, and in Park City, which is in Utah. So kind of tends to be a bit of a home ground for the American athletes, where they tend to perform a bit better than they do on the European circuit. On the women's doubles side, bit different to the men's in the fact that the women's doubles are only allowed 1 sled per nation. So the men's is done on a quota system. So, for example, you've got 2, 3 German, Austrian sleds. The women only have 1 sled per nation. So therefore, yes, we're going to have a German medal. Yes, we're going to have an Austrian medal. But who's getting the bronze, if we're going to say that? Currently, German Austria, Diana Elzberger and Magdalena Matuschina versus Selena Eagle and Lara Michaela, who are the Austrian sled. Very close, probably between those 2 for the gold. Bronze, bit of a toss-up. We could have a bit of a home medal, perhaps. Italy and the USA have been very competitive all year in the women's doubles. Siobhan Forgan and Sophia Kirkley for the Americans, the USA, I should say. But home favourites, Andrea Votter and Marion Oberhofer, will be hoping to put up a strong challenge. And those names sound very sub-Tyrol region of Italy, I shall say. But I've not looked them up too much, but I suspect there may be some Austrian-German parentage somewhere down the line for there. But no, it should be a great competition. Like I said, it'll be very exciting to have luge on a brand new track that they've not been on before. And of course, not many sports measure to the thousandths of a second. So that's how close the margins in luge really are. So it will be a very, very entertaining watch.
Oh, thank you very much. Next alphabetically is Nordic combined. Dan, would you want to do this now with the ski jumping, or do you want to come back to it for S for the ski jumping?
Why don't I just get the Nordic combined out of the way, and then we'll come to the ski jumping. I mean,
with such enthusiasm.
The least beloved of all our Olympic children, I think. Interestingly, and I say that advisedly, Nordic combined, I think it's the only Winter Olympic sport, I think possibly the only Olympic sport where there is no women's competition. There is still no women's competition. And there was a big to-do and a hoo-ha about this. And basically the IOC said to FIS, the Federation International de Ski, look, Nordic combined is pretty much on probation as an Olympic sport anyway. We're not introducing a women's competition to a sport that we are quite possibly going to not see at Olympics again. You have to go back to 2010 to have any nation other than Japan, Austria, Norway, and Germany on the podium in the Nordic combined. It is essentially just those four nations that do it. It, I think, also has the worst viewing figures by a long way of the winter sports, and that lack of National Olympic Committee diversity, which you know about the Olympic family, plus the sort of the sheer lack of commercial desirability of it, it's really putting it into a bad place. So that's why pretty much there's no women's competition. All that being said, it remains a problematic sport in and of itself because, and Chris, I was really interested genuinely to hear you talk about how they've got rid of the combined event in the alpine skiing, because a critique we've all always had of the combined in the alpine skiing was that it really favors a good slalom skier. A slalom skier can make up deficits over a downhiller that just don't like the other way around. And it's the exact same in the Nordic combined. It doesn't matter how good you are at the ski jumping, the cross-country skiers can always pretty much make up that deficit. So it's interesting, potentially the only way of saving the Nordic combined is turning it into a team event with a ski jumper and a cross-country skier, or two ski jumpers, two cross-country skiers. These things are in discussion. The Nordic combined athletes themselves don't want anything to do with that. They see themselves as part of a long tradition. This goes back to the 19th century. It was about being the ultimate Nordic skier. So it's interesting and fascinating to watch a sport struggle in real time for relevance, for commercial pickup. And there's probably a very, and I say interesting again, advisedly, interesting comparison to be between Nordic combined and say something like modern pentathlon. How do you make these odd historical legacy sports work in a way that is diverse in terms of nation, but also gets viewing figures and no horses get punched? It doesn't happen very often, the horse punching in the Nordic combined, but you know, it's. I'm not saying it hasn't. I'm not saying it hasn't. That said, the two people who are most likely to win are Oftebro of Norway and Lampeter of Austria. But it's a struggle genuinely. I mean, I watch all the Olympic sports for all that. I take the mick out of the other ones. This one, it's a real struggle to do because the level, it's not good ski jumping and it's not good cross country skiing. It's just them together. Unlike, you know, the heptathlon, there's world class athletes at all those sports in the heptathlon. It's just not the same for this one. So it will happen. It may be the last time we see it, which is sad, but things do come to an end. Much like my roundup of the Nordic combined.
Yeah, thank you for that enthusiastic summary of Nordic combined. Next, alphabetically, is short track. I know you wanted to combine this with speed skating, Chris. Do you want to do them both now?
I will do them back to back now. Yes, let's just get them done. No, I mean the short track is fun. We all love a bit of short track because it is just carnage. Obviously, it's a shame that given our kind of reasonable history in this event, that the British team is just one man, Niall Tracy, but he's doing all three events. So yeah, hopefully he'll stay on his feet to get around one of them. But no,
it's a mono team. A mono team.
Mono team, yes. But it is a shame because obviously it was a great event for Britain over the years, and it's sad to see just the one entrant in it. But no, again, it's going to be. I mean, it's weird how this event has changed over the kind of the 20 years, really, 20 odd years it's been in at the kind of in the Olympics, because it was very much an Asian dominated event, and it is to an extent, but with the European like sway is kind of over the last few years has kind of moved more to like, well, Canada in particular, more than America. It was always America versus Korea, it felt like back in the day, and now it seems like it's Canada versus China is the kind of head to head. But I guess the interesting thing since the last Olympics is the Liu brothers from Hungary, who obviously won their first Olympic medals. It was a big story. And then Shoanglu, the younger brother, he won the gold in the 500 at the last Olympics. They've now switched to China, which is quite interesting, given that you'd
Were they
feel
not
like
representing China in Beijing?
no, they
No,
were still
okay.
representing Hungary. Yeah,
Oh,
so it
okay.
was just after 2023, I think, when they switched. So yeah, very interesting. Obviously, I'm sure the Hungarian team are devastated because that was kind of their relay team gone without those two. So yeah, a interesting move. But then it's weird that they have immediately kind of slotted in, obviously, as being the best in China as well. So that is the rivalry. That kind of rivalry between Canada and China is effectively between the Liu brothers. Well, really only Xiao Liu. Really, he's the only one who's kind of stepping in against Canada. Yeah, so Shuang Liu was the defending champion in the 500 meters when he was representing Hungary, but he'll face some kind of stiff competition against from the Canadians. The world champion is Stephen Dubois of Canada, and he's having a good season as well. But it's the youngster, the new Canadian youngster, everyone's excited about, a guy called William Danjinu. He's going to be potentially the big star for Canada in the short track. So he's heading the World Cup rankings quite comfortably in the 500 meters. And then Dubois and Shuang Liu are all kind of in the mix. But the Italians will have a men's hope as well with Pietro Siegel. He's ranked quite highly across all the disciplines. I mean, to be honest, it's the same names a lot across the 500, 1000 in particular. So it will be a case of like the Italian Siga is the favourite in the 1000 because he's heading the World Cup ahead of Dubois, and then it's Shuang Liu, and it's the other Canadian Dan Ginu. So they're all very much the contenders in the men's, and then the 1500 you get a little bit more of a kind of this difference of nations. It's still going to be the same guys I've just mentioned, but you'll throw in the at the World Championships last year, the Belgian Stijn Desmet got the silver. You may recognise that name in Belgian speed skating because his sister Hannah Desmet won an Olympic bronze medal at the last Olympics in Beijing. So again, more siblings. Love to see it. So maybe Belgium can find their way onto the podium in the 1500 meters. There will still be a few Koreans and maybe some Japanese around as well. Especially when we come to the team relay. Obviously, the men's, you're looking at Korea, China, Canada, as I mentioned. The Italians maybe also have quite a strong team in the men's one, and the Dutch. Even though the Dutch is historically better at the long track speed skating, they are kind of starting to break through in the short track as well. So there'll be a factor in the men's. The women's team as well. We're going to see the Dutch as very strong contenders in that one, as well as the Canadians and the Koreans, as I mentioned, and China and USA will almost certainly be in the mix as well. But in terms of the women's, a little bit more kind of less. There's still lots of a few more names, I guess. There's still a lot of the same names, but a few more to kind of throw in there. The Dutch, as I mentioned, like it was kind of Suzanne Schulting who kind of broke through from the Dutch side into short track. She was kind of the first one because obviously they dominated long track, they won everything, and then she was the one who kind of broke the glass ceiling in the short track, and that's kind of carried on. There's the Veltsboer siblings, two sisters, Zandra and Michelle, who are both definitely ones to watch. Zandra is the better of the two. She is heading the world rankings in the 500 meters, and she did win the world title in that as well last year. Obviously, the defending Olympic champion in the 500 meters is Arianna Fontana of Italy, who has been competing at this event for a long time. She was there in Turin back in 2006. So it's great to see her on the team. I mean, I want to see her light the flame. I'm all for Arianna Fontana
But she
being
is
the big star of this.
dealing with an injury, isn't she?
Yeah, I mean, whether she'll get on the podium, I think is unlikely. It's just, yeah, I mean, it's just good for her to make the team and to be there at this kind of 20th one is great. And yeah, she's not ranked kind of anywhere on the top fives of any of the disciplines, but she's an experienced campaigner, and maybe she can get a boy around and get herself a medal. Because I think she's won a medal at. I don't think she won one in. Or did she win one in Turin in the
She won a
relay
team
pots?
medal, yeah.
Yes, but she's won. Yeah, the fight in the 500 in particular, she's gone like bronze, silver, gold, gold. So she's won. She's the double defending champion here. So I just hope she's on the start line basically. But it does look like this event has moved on a lot when you look at the names who won the medals last time. Like as I mentioned, Schulting, Kim Bhutan of Canada, she's kind of moving on to more just being a part of the relay team now. Shorting, as I'll come to her later, is actually kind of I think she's not doing as many events in the short track now because of the Veltsbauer siblings. So she's kind of been shoved out of the team a little bit by these two, who will be the ones contending for medals. I mentioned Hannah Desmet. She's one of the favourites in the 1,000 meters. She's ranked second in the World Cup rankings and is the world champion from last year. So Belgium could have a good chance of a gold medal with her, and hopefully her brother can get on the podium in the men's as well. The other North Americans to look out for: Courtney Starolt of Canada. She's in the top 3 ranked. In fact, she's in the top 2 ranked across all 3 disciplines. So she'll be hoping to be on the podium for at least one of them. And Corinne Stoddard of America, again, she's ranked 3rd in both the 500 and 1,000, and 4th in the 100. And they were Courtney was on the podium a couple of times at the World Championships last year. And then the Italians do have a hope in the 1,500 as well. Eliza Confortola is ranked 5th in the World Cup. But this is the one where the Koreans are a little bit more involved. Choi Min Jeong is the defending world and Olympic champion, and she's in the top 3 of the world rankings for this season. So yeah, fingers crossed she can get some kind of brownie points in a way for the Asians, really, because they've not had much success in this event. It seems at the World Championships it has become very European and North American. So the Korean team will be hoping that she can do something like that. And obviously, we do have the mixed event as well, which will see the likes of China, Canada, and probably Italy again get involved. But keep an eye on Poland as well. Natalia Marzewska got a bronze at the World Championships in the 500 last year, and she's been around a while, and she's finally kind of knocking on the door of getting in the medals in the individual. And the Poland relay team also got a silver at the World Champs last year. So fingers crossed we can see another nation kind of on the podium. But as I mentioned, Suzanne Shorting was the one who kind of broke the glass ceiling with the Dutch. She's only down, I think, for the 1,500 in the short track because she's now transitioning to the long track, which is kind of interesting given she was the one that set the scene in the short track. So that'll take me nicely onto the long track where she basically the landscape of this has changed a little bit since the last Olympics. None of the Irenes are around. Irene Wurst has retired. She won the 1,500 gold. Irene Schuiten, who won the 3,000, the 5,000, she's also retired. And she won the mass start as well. So the Dutch are kind of loosening their stranglehold a little bit on the long track, especially if you look at who won the world titles last year. Miho Tagaki of Japan was the 1,000 meter champion and is quite highly ranked across a few other disciplines, including the 15 in the World Cup this year. So she'll be hoping to get some Olympic medals because I think she's only won she won the 1,000 in Beijing last time round, so she's defending champion in that one. But it's interesting because they've got so much depth now in this that there's not one person dominating. That there's only like 1 or 2 of them doing 1 or 2 events. So I think Joy Buene, who's the world champion in the 15 and the 3, is only down for the 3,000 because she can't even make the team for the 15 because I think that's the one that Schulting's doing as well. It's like they've kind of too many good speed skaters that instead of one of them doing all like we've had with Irene Wurst, they're kind of spreading the load a little bit. So we've got on the women's side, Joy Buene is doing the 3,000. Suzanne Schulting's doing the 1,000. With Jutta Leerdam doing the 1,000 and the 500. They will all be in contention, but the main new name is not Femke Bol, it's Femke Kok, who is going to be one of the stars of the game. She's down for the 500, 1,000 and 1,500 for the Dutch team. So she's won a few. She won the 500 in the World Championships last year and got silver in the 1,000. But then she randomly broke the world record in the 15, which is kind of like she was a sprinter and now she's already kind of getting that kind of distance in her legs. So the Dutch will still be the team to beat on the women's side, especially in the relays, where they'll be up against again Japan and Canada. A few Norwegians as well, having a good time of it, both on the World Cup, especially over the longer distances. Ragni Viklund is one of the highest ranked, and she did win the silver in the 5,000. And for those people, again, another one like an Ariana Fontana, someone who's been around since I think Turin in 2006, is the Czech skater Martina Sablikova. She's still winning medals. She won a silver at the World Championships last year. I mean, so she's been around forever, and she's how old is she now? 38. Has medals going back. Yeah, she didn't win one in Turin, but she was there in Vancouver winning her first gold, and she did manage to get bronze last time round in Beijing. So she's won plenty of medals. So I'm glad to see that she's on the team. And then the men's side, similar. Lots of Dutch names. Jenin de Boo of the Netherlands is one of the favourites. He's won the golds and the silver at the World Championships last year. But if you look at the World Cup rankings, it is the American, this 21-year-old sensation, Jordan Stoltz, who was in Beijing last time as a 17-year-old, and he's topping the World Cup rankings in the 500,000 and 1,500. So whether he's going to deliver against the Dutch, we'll wait to see. But it looks like it's going to be that battle between Stoltz and De Boo and a couple of the other Dutch, and especially Gilles Nuis, who was the champion in the 1,500, I think, at the World Championships last year. And then a few of the new names are under the poll. Damien Zurek, he's having a good season over the World Cup over the 500 and the 1,000. And another new name of the distance as well, another teenager, a new Czech star. So while Sablikova on the women's side is kind of heading towards retirement, we've got Metode Zilek from Prague. He's 19 and he's already doing pretty well. I think he leads the long distance World Cup rankings, and he's definitely one to watch over the longer distances. The Norwegians have a stronger team on the men's side than they do the women's. Sander Eitreim and Peder Kausgang are the world champions in the 5,000 and the 15. So watch out for those guys in the relays. And the mass start is always a chaotic event in the speed skating. I don't know if you remember last time, it was the Belgian guy Bart Swings who won the gold. He's still in the mix. He got a bronze at the World Championships last year and is still ranked quite highly. He's ranked third in the World Cup. But again, this could be where Italy get a medal. They're very good at the long distance. At the World Championships last year, David Giotto won the 10,000 meters, and the mass start was won by Andrea Giovanni. And Giovanni is still ranked quite highly in the World Cup this year, as is Giotto over the distances. So yeah, it changes a little bit when you get the longer distances. You lose kind of the Dutch guys, and it gets more the Italians and the Czechs and a few others like the Belgian guy Bart Swing. So, and then obviously, just to mention British entrants, we don't have Cornelius Kirsten, who has won a world medal since the last Olympics in long track speed skating, but he's still recovering from an injury and didn't quite make it back in time. But his fiance, Elias Smeding, is in the women's 1,000 and 1,500 meters. So if she can get a top 10, that'll be a seriously impressive result.
It'd be, nice to see Britain sort of poking our heads back into long track again.
Yes, yeah, it's just a shame that it's a bit late for Cornelius. Obviously, a world medal is a huge achievement for an event we don't have a track actually for in this country.
Exactly. Moving on from the speed skatings, the Skelly Bob, Kyle.
Yes, we are only a few days away from Hazel Irvin, Claire Balding, Jeanette actually referring to the skeleton as throwing yourself in a tea tree at the mountain. But of course, it's a lot more technical than that. Skeleton Bob has been a fantastic event for Team GB in years gone by, and we have first-hand experience. I can reveal myself, Chris and Alex have been to Bath University, and we have been on the test track for the bobsled skeleton and taught by no other than Amelia Coltman, who's finally actually now an Olympic athlete. I say finally, she's very young, but she taught us how to ride a skeleton, how to load onto a skeleton, and she is now an Olympic athlete as part of Team GB. So that's fantastic to see. It's been very exciting from a British point of view. Not to focus too much on that because a Brit, but I'm going to focus on that because in the men's side, it's been dominant from the British guys. So we've had 7 World Cups. Again, we've had a World Cup on the Cortina circuit. But of those 5, Matt Weston has won 5. Of the 7, Matt Weston has won 5 of those 7, and he's won silver in the other 2. The other 2 being won by his teammate Marcus Wyatt, also of Great Britain. So those 2 really have dominated the entire World Cup season. They finished 1st and 3rd in the World Cup. Zheng Yang of China has come second. Really consistent. He's not finished below 7th in every World Cup this year. So when you come to Olympics, World Champs, you've got 4 runs as opposed to 2 in the World Cup circuit. Being consistent will really reward you, and he will be a major threat for the medals. Champion in 2022 was Christopher Grother of Germany. He had some big injury troubles towards the end of last year. It's taken him some time to get back to where he could be and should be. However, from some awful results early season where he wasn't even making the second heat, coming 26th, 25th, 24th, he's now managed to finish the season in 9th place in the World Cup, which just goes to show how well he's come back to form. Speaking of Germany again, Axel Juncker, who's been around for a long time, he's only 34. Devastated to find out he's a year younger than me. It feels like he's been around forever. Silver in Beijing last time. Again, has some injury problems, but come back really strongly this year. He's been 4th overall in the World Cup this year. As mentioned, we have finished the World Cup for skeleton and bobsleigh. I don't think I mentioned earlier. Luge still has 2 sessions after the Olympics, whereas Bob and skeleton have finished pre-Olympics. Sami Meyer from Austria will also be in the mix. Again, had a lot of injuries. Brother of the great Benny Meyer from Austrian bobsleigh days, who's married to Elizabeth Vache, who was a skeleton rider for Canada, becoming Elizabeth Meyer, who does some commentary sometimes. He has had a really good comeback year. He's currently 4th in the World Champs. I put 4th. I put Axel 4th. I think he's 5th. Anyway, Italians, bit of a wild card. Amadea Bagnis has had a consistent season for him. He's there or thereabouts. If there's anyone gonna spring a home surprise, it would be him. Felix Keisinger from Germany, also a bit of an outside bet. We've got 4 Germans on the World Cup circuit regularly. Of course, only 3 slots for the top nations. So I say only 3, but more than anyone else. Lucas Neidanger was well up there and definitely had the chance of getting that 3rd German slot. But Casey had a great end to the season and managed to get that 3rd German slot. He's got a reputation for having 1 great slide and then 1 poor slide. So, like I said, having 4 slides, you'd rather be consistent, but he'll be there or thereabouts. Other name I want to mention is Rasmus Johansson of Denmark. Now, although Denmark in name, he is a product of the German program. He trains with them. He is at one with the German program. His sister also races on the female side. He again is very young, very talented. The Germans are really investing their time into him. He again struggles with consistency, which for a young slider is not uncommon. But if he gets it together on his day, he is brilliant and could spring a very good surprise. Who would have thought Denmark would have a skeleton athlete on their hands? On to the women's side. A very, very interesting season. Kimberly Boss, who got a medal in the last Olympics in Beijing and was the World Cup champion last year, again has had a bit of an off season. I think she's 8th in the World Cup rankings. She's had some great races, but some where she's just not really been on the pace at all. Comparatively, Kim by name, Kim Marlemans from Belgium has been utterly fantastic. She is running on a Bromley sled, which we know that name in Britain, Kristen Bromley. She has an incredible start, but she also is a brilliant driver. And what we've seen from the Cortina World Cup is that it's that combination that really works for this track. You have tracks like Innsbruck where you have a start, but it's quite short and you can get away with being quick at the start. You have tracks like Altenburg, Sigulda, where you really have to drive. The start doesn't matter as much. Cortina is a really good blend of both those, and I think it really sits well to Kim Marlemans, and I think I'd put her as a strong favourite for gold. Um, Also, it's delightful to see her partner, her training partner, Nicole Silveira, has also had a great season. She's Brazilian, she's Canadian, also. She's a nurse and was a nurse for COVID, but she is Brazilian and races for Brazil. They were a great team together. It's lovely to see them performing so well this World Cup season. Nicole is also top 10 in the World Cup this year. A bit more inconsistent, but can really perform when it matters. Um, Jackie Pfeiffer, who we may know a bit better as Jacqueline Luling. She's got married. She's now Jacqueline Pfeiffer. She again has had a brilliant World Cup season. She is a fantastic glider. She works the track beautifully. Does not have a quick start at all. Do not be surprised if you see Jacka back in 18th, 19th, 20th on the start speed. But by the end of that track, she will be up there and she will race up those positions. Another name in the mix, Janine Flock from Austria, 36 now, which again, don't like mentioning their age, but I think it might be her last Olympics. She has had the most incredible career. She has won the most World Cups of anyone in history. She's won world champs, European champs, but does not have an Olympic medal. Very sadly, for Austrians. She was leading into the final run in 2018, I think it
18,
was, yeah.
yeah.
And yes, and then ended up in fourth place, which meant Lizzie, of course, won for Team GB. But Janine works very closely with the British squad, with the Latvian program run, but now by Martin Stukeras. So I count Janine as an honorary Brit, and it would be delightful to see if she could get a medal finally at the Olympics, because my God, she deserves it for all she's done for the sport.
It's fascinating to
Just
see these geopolitical alliances forming in skeletons and the programs.
yeah, indeed, indeed. It's much like the bobsleigh where they've definitely got the squads together, and in such a small sport, I think that the combination has proven to be very well for a lot of the teams, as mentioned. Um, on the British side, we've got three female athletes in opposed to the two for the male athletes. Skeleton quotas on the men's side, Germany have three, China have three, some have two, some have one. On the women's side, the World Cup performances have meant that Germany have three, but Great Britain, Northern Ireland also have three. So our three athletes are Tabby Sturker, um, Amelia Coltman, as already mentioned, and Freya Tarbert. Of those three, Tabby Sturker is definitely the best hope of a medal. Really interesting backstory to Tabby. She was a trapeze artist in the circus. She went to circus school, never saw herself as an athlete, grew up in London. Um, she is an incredibly fast starter. I would love to see her actually do like a 60-meter indoor sprint because she's that good. She smokes everyone at start. She's incredible. Her driving ability has come on so much as well. She was a great junior, and it's lovely to see that transferred into the senior. She was the overall World Cup bronze medalist for this year, and I think if she can pull four runs together, we definitely could be looking at a medal for Tabby in the women's singles. Other two, Amelia and Freya. Amelia is a really consistent slider. Of course, bit biased. We were taught by her, but it's wonderful to see how she's performed over this year. She won a World Cup on the 24-25 season. She got a bronze medal this year as well, and she finished in 10th place in the World Cup overall this year. Freya has been more inconsistent. I would say probably Freya is more, her peaks maybe higher than Amelia, but her consistency is less. Therefore, you don't really know what you're going to get with Freya. She'll have an amazing run one time and then not the run that she wants the next time. So it's about for her pulling that together and having a great performance. Skeleton, of course, this time we have a new event. We have the mixed team event as well, which combines one male and one female slider together. It's a bit of a different start. They don't start on their own terms. They have a countdown with lights and sounds, and they have to react to that, much like a sprinter would to a gun. It's been interesting watching it on the World Cup. We have a lot of athletes who've come quite used to it, others who have found it a bit of a struggle. You do get a penalty if you false start. I think of 1.5 seconds, so it will really hinder your time. Um, Very open event. We've seen World Cup wins from the UK, from China, Germany. Um, it really depends on who's in the squad. I think Great Britain have a brilliant chance of a medal in this. The teams haven't been decided yet. Obviously, we have two teams qualified. We've got 2 male athletes. The female pairings will decide on how they finish in their individual events. But Marcus and Tabby have won 2 World Cups already between them because Matt Weston was injured early season. He didn't take part in some of them before, but now obviously he'll be there. He'll be fully fit. He'll be finished his competition by the time the mixed team happens. So he will be pairing. I'm assuming himself and Tabby will be a pair, and then Marcus will probably pair with either Amelia or Freya, depending who finishes higher. Definitely a medal up for grabs. Definitely, I don't want to say guaranteed, but I can't see if Marcus and Tabby or Matt and Tabby are together, how they won't get a medal. But we'll hold it on that. But maybe two. Skeleton, yeah, very exciting. Just some other athletes to mention. We've got to mention the drama, I guess, which has kind of been brewing into the mainstream. Actually, it's been weird to see skeleton news break through into the mainstream. Katie Ulander, incredible slider from America, been around a long time, hoping to make her 6th Olympic Games. She's not really been present on the World Cup circuit much this year. She went down to the second tier of sliding, which is the North America's Cup, to gain some ranking points, which you'll get by winning. You get more points winning a North America's Cup than you would for coming 15th in a World Cup, for example. Canada withdrew some of their athletes before the final North America's Cup event, which meant that the prize pot of World Cup points was reduced from 120 for winning to 90 points for winning. Katie Ulander did win. She only got 90 points, not the 120. She was very perturbed by this, and it went down, I think, to the Court of Arbitration for Sport, who only ruled on it 2 days ago that Canada did nothing wrong. Just to caveat this, no matter what had happened, Canada would not have benefited from from their withdrawal. They haven't lost a spot. They wouldn't have gained a spot. The only thing that might have happened is that Katie might have got the 2nd American spot on the rankings. America have 2 athletes, Kelly Curtis and Mystique Rowe, who have qualified. If Katie had got all the points for that race, she would have overtaken Mystique Rowe in the rankings. But at the time it had happened, it would not have been known because the final World Cup came after Katie's race in the North America's Cup. So Mystique could have gained the points to go ahead, which meant it would be nothing. She didn't in the end, but it would have made no difference to the allocation of spots for North America, for Canada, or for USA. So I know Katie's unhappy about it. It happened, but I'm delighted that Mystique Rowe's destined to go. She's an incredible athlete, incredible starter, and it'll be delightful to see her at her first Olympics as well. So yeah, there we go. That's the skeleton. Brilliant event. Love it, as you can tell.
Yeah,
We've
and
had a message on the chat, sorry, about the Lorraine's asking what's going on with the helmets, keeping Cass busy on the run up to the games.
Yeah, so the helmets. So Team GB this week have been told they can't use their helmets that they had designed for the Milano-Cortina Games. These are helmets that were not used previously before. They were not used in the World Cup this year. So I'm not too worried. When I saw the headline initially, I was concerned, mainly actually because Matt Weston's sponsored by Martini, and his helmet is really cool. But they'll have to revert to what unless it gets changed. We've got a week before the skeleton starts, so they will have to use their helmets that were previously used on the World Cup. But I would hope they wouldn't make too much of a difference. But GBR was looking for the marginal gains in skeleton. There was issues with the suits back in 2018 that Laura, Dom, and Lizzie wore, which kind of got swept away. So we'll see, but I'm not worried. I'm delighted to see we've got a great skeleton team back with Matthias Guggenheiger and Martin Schurz, who have really brought British skeleton back to life after the awful times in the 2020s to 2023 period with those awful sleds. So we're good to go.
So lots to look forward to, especially from a British perspective.
Definitely.
I know that Dan likes to scoff at skeleton, but I'm going to stop him from doing that by telling him to talk to us about ski jumping.
Well, there's absolutely zero British interest as well, quite the opposite. And although having said that, whilst you guys were having a go at the skeleton, I have been practicing ski jumping as well. I would like to say that that's just not true. That would be suicidal and very bleak sight as well for anyone. It's been a funny season in the ski jumping this year on the men's side. There's been many, how should we say, a crotch-related disqualification around the ski jumping suits. Too much give in the crotchal area. Many of the male ski jumpers have been disqualified. It's one of these things about it's very similar. I don't want to say that the crotch is similar to the helmet, but it's that idea. There are limits to the designs, and people get disqualified. Key thing I think to think about on the men's side from the ski jumping, most of the individual medalists from 2022 have retired or gone out. I think there's only Ryoyu Kobayashi of Japan who's still in the world top 10. He's a good bet for a medal. I was just looking through the world top 10 now, and actually the country wise it goes Slovenia, Japan, Slovenia, Austria, Germany, Austria, Norway. It's another one of these Olympic sports that is very much crowded out by a traditional set of nations. The absolute dominant force on men's ski jumping this year has been Slovenian Domen Prejec, who is the third of the Prejec brothers. Both of his older brothers have won World Cups and Olympic medals before. And the rather marvelous thing, having heard about other siblings elsewhere, is that on the women's side, his sister Nika is even more dominant, Nika Prejec. So there's a very, very strong chance of sibling double gold or even triple gold, because there's a mixed team event in the ski jumping for Slovenia. And you put good money on Domen Prejec, certainly to win a medal, and you put very good money on Nika Prejec to win the gold medal for the women. Beyond that, it's pick an Austrian, pick a German, pick a Japanese chap. Ren Kaido is looking pretty good. It's not the best ski jumping facility. It is part of the World Cup rotation, but it's not favoured by any of the ski jumps in particular. It's not a classic place. It's fair enough. We're not going to see huge jumps. We're not going to see sort of record breaking or anything like that. The best event will be, as always, the final of the men's large hill. It seems to go on for days and days and days as they adjust for wind, and they go up a step, they come down a step. My recommendation is to figure out when it starts and watch the last half hour, because that's when all the really interesting things start. But yeah, I think the key storyline here will be the Prejec siblings from Slovenia, possibly sweeping the medals quite tight. I'm going to say it's going to be a Slovenian clean sweep across the entirety of the ski jumping, and you can come back and tell me how wrong I was about that and the crotch rubbing as well.
What a wonderful image to leave us with. I believe it's me next on our list of rotation of who's taking each sport. Ski mountaineering, the brand new sport for these Winter Olympics, or skimo, as some like to call it.
No, absolutely not. No, I refuse. It's worse than monobob. I'm not taking a monobob to watch the skimo. No.
So yeah, this is one of the sports similar to what they've been doing in the Summer Olympics, where they're having more sort of rotational sports that the organising committees can put forward to host. This is the first of these that we've had in the Winter Olympics, and it's the first new sport in the Winter Olympics, I think, for quite some time, probably if you're talking about returning sports or new sports, but probably going back to about 2002. But this is great fun. It's a sport part on foot, part on skis, involving both ascending and descending a mountain. There's only 3 events: men's sprint, women's sprint, and the mixed relay. But they're, from what I've seen of it, they're both quite interesting to watch. I'm interested to see how well these do fit in with the Olympic program. But it essentially involves skiing uphill with skins on the skis, sort of a carpet-like material that they so that they don't slide down the hill. Part way taking off the skis and putting them on their back so they can run uphill in boots. Then getting to the top of the hill, taking off the skins from the skis, and skiing down the hill. And because it's multiple uh, athletes at once, you do get overtakes on the downhill, a bit like ski cross. In the sprint, each race is about 3 to 4 minutes long. It's got a similar vibe to ski cross or perhaps the sprints in the cross country skiing. It's very quick and it's done in heats and semi-finals and finals. So it's one of these sports that you might sort of dip into throughout the day. But I'm really interested to see just how well this fits in, because I could think it feels like it could be a Nordic combined, or it could actually be a snowboard cross. In terms of potential medalists, Spain look to have a very strong chance, not just of a medal, but of a gold medal. If they do win a gold medal, that would be only their second gold medal in history after 1972. Their favourite there is in the men's event, Oriol Cardona Cole. He's won the last 2 world titles in the men's sprint. The other contenders on the men's side would be Thibaut Anselmet of France and John Kissler of Switzerland. In the women's side, France again have a very strong contingent, being Axel Gachet-Molleret, I'm not good at French, and Emily Harrop, which sounds like it could be an English name. And then the Swiss Marianne Faton is also likely to feature. As for the team event, I think it's going to be a face-off between France and Spain, and again, probably Switzerland. But the fun thing with the team event is it's a relay. Each athlete does 2 laps of the course before handing over to the next. So there's a lot of space for the teams to spread out. It's also, thankfully, in lots of previous events, they hold the relay before the sprints, and you see sort of people holding back in the relay a bit. They're doing that after this time, so it will hopefully be a bit more hell for leather, and people just going all they can up a steep alpine skiing hill on skis and on foot.
On the one hand, it's great because it's got this. It's properly historical because it's how people used to get to the top of the hills go skiing before cable cars, ski lifts, and things like that. So it has a sort of equivalence to the biathlon, which has the antecedent in things like military patrol, and it was genuinely how people went hunting and skiing. On the other hand, it's people running up a hill and skiing down it, and it's gonna look vaguely comedic, I think, in parts. I've watched a couple of clips online, and it's phenomenally physical. But I think the proof will be in the watching of this one.
Yeah, I was watching some clips of athletes training for it, and climbing up the hill, and I'm like, there's a ski cable car right there. But moving on, Chris, snowboarding, I think our final sport.
Yes, we've reached the end, guys. This is good.
It's a feature length stream, this one.
But it's good because we're finishing on a good one. Snowboarding is obviously been established now for quite a few. You mentioned, I think it probably was this the last sport that was probably added? I think
As like a
1998, I
brand
think.
new one, I think so.
Actual sport, yeah, an actual
Because
sport.
like skeleton and curling were returnees. That was 98 as well for curling, actually. But
So yeah, but it's obviously very well established now. Different elements to it. Obviously, I'll start with the dare I say, well, the oldest and the least interesting, which is the parallel giant slalom. They even dropped the slalom a few years ago, didn't they? So it is now just one event, the parallel giant slalom. And as I've already mentioned, Estelle Ledecka is the hot favourite. in the women's. She hasn't lost. She's won the last 2 Olympics and also the last 2 World Championships as well, I think. Even though it's weird because she's not on the rankings in the World Cup because she doesn't do it as much, because she just does 1 or 2 and then gets the point and then thank you very much. I'm off to go to get some money doing some skiing because that's where the prize money is. So it's weird that she's not really highly ranked in either sport because she's trying to straddle both. So obviously she's trying to not straddle in a slalom as well. So, but she's the favourite. The only kind of threat would be the Japanese snowboarder who is, I think she's finished second behind her last time and is the world champion silver medalist. It's Miki of Japan, who did beat her, Esther, in the actual slalom, not the giant slalom at the World Championships last year. But luckily, that is not in the Olympics for Ledetzka, so she can just focus on that one event. On the men's side, it's an interesting battle between Italy and Austria. Roland Fishnala of Italy and Benjamin Carl of Austria are both tied on the exact same points in the World Cup rankings. And interestingly, Fishnala won the World Championships last year, and it's Carl who was the defending Olympic champion. So those two should be the 2 going head to head. But then below that, there is other Austrians in Fabian Oman and another Italian in Aaron March. So that could be the top 4 basically in this event. So should be good home support for the Italians, and obviously Austria's not far away, so it could be a very good event with an good atmosphere. Snowboarding cross, obviously. Beijing, we had a great fairy tale ending for the career of Lindsay Jacobellis, where she not only won 1 gold, but she won 2 because she won the team event as well. So this time, it should be, if all goes to plan. I mean, Charlotte Banks has not had a great Olympic journey. She's always gone out quite early when she's won world titles and world medals, but it should hopefully be a battle between Britain Charlotte Banks and Italy's Michela Mioli. That was the gold and silver. Mioli beat Charlotte Banks at the World Championships last year. And when we look at the rankings at the moment as well, I think Charlotte Banks is top of that, but it's very close behind. And Mioli is actually ranked 4th. Josie Baff of Australia is 2nd ranked, and then there's a few French boarders as well. So it should be a battle between those few nations. But fingers crossed that Charlotte Banks can finally actually do it at the Olympics. Because even when she represented France, she wasn't making the finals either. So it's not like she's just become British and become shit. So that's not the way it is. But she is the world leader and she is a world medalist. So she's always going to be in the mix. On the men's side, we do have a British entrant in Hugh Nightingale. And in terms of who's going to be the ones to watch in that one, it should be, again, similar names. It should be Austrian defending champion Alessandro Hammerli and the silver medalist of Canada, Elliot Grondin, are probably going to be the 2 battling it out. Grondin won the world title last year, with Hammerli getting the bronze. And looking at the world rankings, they are both in the top 5, but the leader in the world rankings is an Australian called Adam Lambert. He will not be performing with Brian May, I don't believe. So interesting.
That you're aware of.
That would be the best thing at the Olympics. That will, like the rest of it, like Dorothea Vera could win gold, but Adam Lambert doing the snowboarding would be amazing.
It would. So he's quite comfortably top of the world rankings, but it's snowboard cross, and to be honest, it doesn't mean anything. So yeah, and obviously there's the team event, which is another great medal chance for Great Britain with Hugh Nightingale and Charlotte Banks. They did win the world title in 2023. They are currently top of the World Cup rankings, but they did go out in the heats of the World Championships last year. So again, we know it's a bit chaotic, this event, but the fact that they won, I think it's the only World Cup team event that's actually been held this year. It was in Italy. They did win it. They beat the Italians in 2nd place. So with that being the rivalry on the women's side, Banks and Mioli, it should be similar in the team. So fingers crossed we can see Britain there, but France, Australia, Switzerland, and USA should also be factors in that team event. And then we get to all the fun flicks and all that stuff with the half pipe and the big air and the slopestyle. Again, I'll start with the big air and the slopestyle because they are kind of similar. You're going to see a lot of the same names. On the men's side, the British entrant is a guy called Zinner Mazet Brown. I'm not sure he's not going to be mixed in with the big guys. who we should be expecting to see in the big air, the Chinese athlete Su Yiming. He is the defending Olympic champion in the big air, and he is the World Cup leader. But the world champion is the Japanese Ryo Kimata, and he's also going to be one of the favourites in the slopestyle as well. Again, this is where Japan could quite easily sweep a lot of the podiums in the these kind of big air slopestyle events. They did at the World Championships last year. They did on the women's side do the clean sweep, and the big air on the men's side to get 2 out of the 3, so 5 out of the 6 medals at the World Championships last year for Japan. Yeah, Kimata is the favourite, one of the favourites in the big air, going up against the Chinese Su Yiming. Also keep an eye out for Kira Kamua of Japan, and obviously the Canadian legend Mark McMorris, who's got a slew of like bronze medals at the Olympics and has never actually managed to land a gold. I don't think he's even got a silver. Let me just check actually if he's actually won any. Yeah, 3 bronze medals in the slopestyle in a row, 14, 18 and 22. So obviously his compatriot Max Parra won the gold last time, slightly controversially after the replay showed that one of his grabs didn't actually kind of grab. So that would have cost him the gold, but that was a great story because he just come back from cancer, so they didn't want to ruin that. But so it could be a battle in the slopestyle between Stu Yiming, who got the silver last time, and Mark McMorris of Canada, also with Oliver Martin of the USA. Keep an eye on him. The Americans have always got strong teams with the likes of Red Gerard and a few other names, Fitzsimmons as well. They'll be in the mix. And also Marcus Cleveland of Norway, one of the older guys of Norway. He's been around for a while. Fingers crossed that he can find his way onto the podium as well at the Olympics. On the women's side, in terms of slopestyle and big air, obviously big air, the defending champion is Austria's Anna Gather. She's won the last 2 Olympic titles. She's getting on a bit now. It's not looking like she's. I mean, I don't want to write her off because she's obviously very experienced and has won this twice before, but maybe this is the one where she's going to be up against a lot of stiff competition. In particular, again, the Japanese Miyabi Onitsuka is the world leader, along with the defending world champion, who is Hukomu Murasi. Yeah, so Japan, as I mentioned, swept the world championships on this last year. And in the slopestyle, hopefully we'll see that again. The Japanese Murasi she was a silver medalist at the world championships last year, and who is ranked in the slopestyle. She's top of the slopestyle rankings ahead of her teammate Fukada. So again, Japan very strong in this one. The defending champion in the slopestyle is also the defending world champion, is the New Zealander Zoe Sadowski-Thinner, who has been around for a couple of years now. She burst onto the scene about 5 or 6 years ago and is such a sensation. She probably is the favourite for another New Zealand gold medal. She's such a big star in New Zealand and got their first ever Winter Olympic gold in Beijing. So she's looking likely to defend her title. But obviously on the women's side, we do have a very talented young Brit in Mia Brooks, who has, again, kind of similar to Kirsty Muir on the women's the ski side, has kind of been slowly getting the points on the World Cup and having some good performances. She is ranked 5th in the big air this year. She obviously was too young to compete in Beijing, despite being one of the best in the world. So hopefully her first Olympics can go well and she can maybe sneak a medal or maybe even a top 5, if not. So yeah, she's competing along with Maisie Hill. She's also doing both the slopestyle and the big air. Women's half pipe, obviously slightly different. Not many, unlike the skiing where you see a lot of people do all 3, and the snowboarding you kind of don't. You get to see most of them just the half pipers are kind of unique. Chloe Kim, the American, she's obviously the big name in this event. She is the defending Olympic and world champion. Not done as much this year, had a few injury issues, but I still wouldn't bet against it to be the favourite. Her compatriot Maddie Mastro will be in the mix as well, with the likes of, again, a load of Japanese athletes. We should be seeing Rice Kudo, Sena Tomita, and Ono as well. She should be in the mix with the Korean Choi Gan-on, who is the World Cup leader, and then the Canadian Elizabeth Hosking as well. So women's halfpipe is always the best events to watch, but for me, the men's halfpipe is the best of the snowboarding. I've loved watching it since Sean White back in the day, And I'm really hoping that we're going to finally see a gold medal for Australia's Scotty James, because I remember watching him as a 15-year-old in Vancouver in 2010, which is crazy that he's still going and still very much at the top of his game. He is the defending world champion, but obviously at the Olympics he's won bronze and then silver. That incredible 2018 final, which was one of the greatest of all time, and then came back and just missed out on the gold last time to Ayuma Hirano of Japan, who probably will be his biggest rival. And also Hirano's brother, Ruka Hirano, is also there. He's the one that Scotty James beat to the world title last year. There's been a big Netflix documentary about Scotty James. He's such a big star. He's married to Lance Stroll, the F1 driver's sister, so he's going to be fine financially for the rest of his life. But he's a very big name in the sport, and I think everybody in the snowboarding world is willing him to kind of get that gold medal that he deserves, because he's won multiple world titles, X Games, everything. The only gold that he's missing is the Olympic one. He's also got his young Australian teammate Valentina Gazzelli. He's ranked second in the world rankings and could easily be a threat to the podium. But we're looking again Australia versus Japan, with a few Americans thrown into this half pipe. And also I mentioned the Melville Ives brothers. Cam obviously he's the other one. Cam is going in the snowboarding. It's Finley going in the skiing. And I mentioned right at the top in the alpine events that we have Brazilian chances in the slalom. In the half pipe, a Swiss snowboarder called Pat Bergener, who's been in the top 5 in the last few Olympics, has switched nationality to Brazil as well. So suddenly Brazil have gone from having no medal chances to 2 in the same Olympics.
Well, I suppose they're not known for their winter conditions, but it's nice to see that any nation might have a chance, even if it is with a few plastic entrants.
Yeah, I think they've both got Brazilian parents, so it's not like it's too crazy.
So did Tiffany Porter, but the tabloid press didn't care about that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So that was our last sport to go through. But I did ask everybody if you have a pick to light the cauldron for the opening ceremony. I imagine that there's probably going to be multiple lighters, as there is a cauldron in Milan and in Cortina, and it seems that the opening ceremony is going to be quite split between the two. But I'd like to hear your suggestions for presumably Italian athletes who will light the cauldron.
Ooh, well, now we know that there's split ones. I'll stick with my initial shout of Ariana Fontana lighting it in Milan. I hope this is what happens. And then I guess it should be a man in Cortina where the sliding is. So I'll go with Armin Zogler. Was he the luge legend?
Yeah.
Who won like 1 million golds in the luge? There you go.
Dan?
I'm not sure about locations or that. I would have thought sort of lira for lira, it would have been Dorothea Vera, just in terms of the amount of coverage. But she's up in altitude now, and it's quite a trek from Milano, from Cortina up to Anholz. I mean, it's not a hugely long way. And I don't see any of the biathletes coming down for the opening ceremony, because it's not long after that they start their things. So I think it will be, I do think it'll be Ariana Fontana, despite the fact that her and the Italian Olympic Committee do not get on and haven't done for some time. And I wonder if they might bring some sort of old legend back from the past or someone like that. But quite who that would be, I'm not sure. But Ariana Fontana, I think, is nailed on to light the cauldron somewhere. Even if they don't ask her to, I think she might run in and do it anyway.
Skating, more like.
No, I definitely agree. I think Ariane Fontana is a great shout. Alberto Tomba was the other name that I had floating in my mind. He would be the other one. Again, maybe him doing the Cortina and Ariana doing the Milan. Or you know what, someone random. Who knows? But yeah, they'd be my 2 picks.
So my picks were perhaps more Milan based, would be Enrico Fabrice, who's a speed skater who won 2 golds at the 2006 Torino Olympics, one as part of the Team Pursuit and one individually. And this was like quite an upset for Italy to be really taking it to the Netherlands. in a sport that they didn't really have much history in. They've not won, I don't think they've won any gold since. I'm not sure if they've even won any medals in this sport since, but he was their leading medalist at the last Italian Winter Olympics. So I think that he might stand a good chance of being chosen for some honour in this ceremony. Perhaps for a Cortina pick, I have gone into curling and I have wondered, would they want Stefania Constantini, being that she is a Cortina girl? And I think there is also a running thing recently of wanting people to light the cauldron who stand a medal chance, as we saw in Paris with Teddy Riner, the judoka. So I think that maybe they might go for that to try and get that chance, but who knows?
Or it will be some like photogenic children that
Yeah.
they've got or something, and it will be like "We Are the Future," some bullshit like that, and it'll be But hopefully it's Alberto Tomba because I think that would be great.
That would be cool. But thank you all for joining us and clearing your Wednesday evenings for this. And
Your entire Wednesday evening.
yeah. And
We got through it.
and thank you to everybody watching, or either watching live, watching the VOD, or listening to the podcast, which I will need to start editing soon. But yes, thank you all. Bye for now.
Happy Olympics.
Goodbye.
Enjoy.
Enjoy the games.